What I basically want to do is open up this seminar. Obviously, you guys are here to learn a little something. I don't know, it could be something about myself, you know, a little more about the person. I know you read, maybe a lot of you, most of you know who I am, some maybe not. You know, I'm one of the biggest names in professional bodybuilding, and I'm sure you've read a lot of stories about me, about my life, my training, what my goals are and whatnot, my titles. But what I like to really do here in seminars, which I do several a year, and I really actually enjoy doing, because this kind of puts me in touch with the people on a more personal level rather than just being on stage, is kind of tell my story, which, you know, maybe kind of a rundown of what you've kind of read before. And but I like to, you know, open up for question and answers when I'm done. And you know, feel free to ask basically any question. I'm pretty honest and very simple about what I suggest, and they kind of go by my theories as far as diet and nutrition, training, just basically life as being a professional bodybuilder. But a lot of what I do, remember, I wasn't always a professional bodybuilder. You know, I started at a basic level. You know, I started lifting weights when I was a teenager, so I've learned over the years, I've learned through a lot of trial and error. I've tried a lot of different things, and I've been through the lows, I've been to the highs, and right now I'm just trying to ride the wave to obviously be the best, which I'm basically one position I feel from that. And right now my energy levels are kind of low. I'm prepared for the Arnold Classic, which is in 2 weeks. So I'm actually a pretty mellow guy anyway, but I'm hungry and I'm ready to eat, so don't ask me about too many good junk food questions. Basically, simple background, I'm 30 years old. I've been training about 12 years. I started training when I was 18 years old. Reason being, I grew up on a farm back in central Massachusetts, very large family, and I developed a pretty solid physique from working in the construction field, which my brothers own a business back there. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters. So I learned the value of hard work early on. I started working on the farm, obviously, probably when I was young, probably about 8 years old, doing various chores, and my weekends were spent basically working, while a lot of the other kids got to do a lot of extra things in sports and whatnot. I didn't really get involved in sports until I was in high school because I worked all the time. But it really taught me the value of hard work and dedication, devotion, and I really kind of used that when I started to begin training when I graduated from high school and was attending college. I went to school for criminal justice, which I actually got my degree in, and I never followed through because obviously I took the step to become a bodybuilder and unfortunately turned professional at a pretty young age. So it's been a very blessed career for me. I would say I've been one of the most, been doing 3 contests before I took up my professional card, which is almost unheard of in the United States. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do that. But I was a football player in high school. I started playing football when I was a sophomore. By that time, I already developed a pretty muscular physique, and a lot of people used to come up to me, whether it be in the mall, and I was actually the biggest kid in my high school, which was about 1,500 kids. It was a regional high school, and everyone used to say, "Wow, man, you're really big," and this and that. I remember even going in the gym my junior year when I was 16 years old. First time I would get on the bench press, I bench pressed 315 pounds. So along with the size, I always had the strength too, because I was working in the bulwark in the concrete business, my family business, and working on the farm. I was very strong, rugged, muscular kid, not even, you know, I basically ate a lot of junk food and I still stayed pretty lean. So fortunately I kind of had a metabolism, but had no idea what the future would bring for me, and that I'd actually achieve this kind of status, and it was never planned that way. So, you know, after all these comments and whatnot, "Oh, well, you work out, this and that," I thought, you know, what if I did start working out? What would it do for me? So I kind of picked up a few bodybuilding books. I remember reading. I read Bob Harris's Beyond Build book was the first book I actually read, and I think Lee Haney was basically finishing up his career. This was about 1991. And I started lifting weights. I joined the local Gold's Gym, put my $300 down, and I decided, you know, after I graduated, it was the best time to maybe start weight training, because I did the normal things in high school, which was basically run wild and party, and you know, kind of had no kind of set schedule. And I started going to school, and it allowed me to actually eat, lay around, study, and I worked a night job. So I just basically started my bodybuilding career. So I started training at 18. Kind of not knowing what I'm doing, just kind of watch people around the gym. Ate everything in sight, and I put on about 50 pounds my first year of training. Now the weight really wasn't that decent, okay? Because at the time I was eating probably, you know, pizza and burgers, and everyone just said, well, you gotta eat to grow. And instead of learning the right way, I kind of just listened to a few people here and there, and they told me eat peanut butter, eat pasta, eat, you know, junk food, this and that. But it really doesn't work that way. So I was fortunate enough at 18, I hooked up with a nutritionist, and that's really when my body really started to change. I got on a diet for about 6 months, and this guy was probably one of the biggest names in bodybuilding. This nutritionist at the time, his name was Chris, which a lot of you probably are familiar with. He writes for the magazines. And he was in Maine, and I was in Massachusetts, so he was about 3 hours from me. He drove down and took a look at me, and he said, man, you've got great potential. He just, you know, put me on a diet plan, kind of set my training in the right direction. Within 6 months, I was at the Teenage Nationals, winning my class, becoming the best heavyweight teenage national in the country, okay, at 19. So I thought I really had something there, you know, to train. Basically, I'd only been training about a year and a half, and I already had become the best teenager in the country. I think it kind of propelled me to fall, you know, something, maybe I had something here. So I decided in 2 years I was going to try to come back and compete. Obviously I was in the men's category, because I just turned 20 years old. I think when we got out there it was like 1920, and this was 1993. So I decided I'd take 2 years and jump into the men's division, and I decided on a show called the Tournament of Champions, which is held here in California, in Redondo Beach. I came out, won that show, about 240 pounds, whereas a teenager I competed about 215 pounds, so I put on quite a bit of mass in a couple of years. And I just basically say that was the start of my whole career. I was offered a contract by Weider. I got to meet Joe Weider himself. I shot with a lot of different magazines, Muscle Mag. I hooked up with Irvin Gelb, who shot me. I was the first photographer that took pictures of me, and I was on my way. Started getting publicity. Already I was in the magazines, not even a professional bodybuilder yet. And everyone said, wow, you know, you could be top 3 at the Nationals this year. But I decided to wait a year. Went to the Nationals the next year, 1996, got my professional card, winning the heavyweight class. So 1993, winning the Teenage Nationals, to 1996, becoming a professional bodybuilder, 3 years. Okay, so I was definitely on my way. I signed a contract with Weider, started making a great living at bodybuilding, guest posing, seminars. But the change definitely was, it was very, very new to me. I never really thought I'd be in that position. There was still a lot that I had to learn. And, you know, every show is different. You add 2 pounds of muscle, you really have to change a lot of things, okay? You can never do the same diet all the time, and your body changes. You have to make adjustments, and that's, you know, something that, you know, I'd like to discuss a little further later on. But, you know, and then once you're a pro, I mean, I looked around, I said, wow, you know, now I got to compete against, you know, the Flex Wheelers and, you know, Chris Cormier's and Ronnie Coleman, who wasn't even Mr. Olympia at the time. And I realized I had some work to do, so I took a year off and, you know, came back in 1998 to the Night of Champions, got 11th there, came in a little out of shape, and learned from then on I'd never do a contest unless I was in the best condition possible. So 1999, competed at the Ironman Arnold, got 3rd and 4th there. Went to the Olympia, fell back to 15th, which I felt at the time was not a placing I really deserved, but you know what, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I lost a little big there, but I wasn't really out of shape. It was just that I kind of get overlooked. So I came back in 2001, the Night of Champions, my first professional win in New York, and that was kind of the start of what's now become a great run for me. 2001, I went to the Olympia, got 2nd place, Ron Coleman, controversial decision, and then I basically won every show after that. Being a 2-time Arnold champ and San Francisco Pro, Ironman Pro here last year. European shows, I won the Dutch, 2nd at the Olympia this year, and now hopefully 3-time Arnold Classic champ in 2 weeks, which I feel more confident than I've ever been before because I'm at my all-time best right now today. And if you ask me how I feel about the show, because I know someone's going to ask me in this seminar, I'm going to say done, sealed, 3-time champ. Okay. And that's how I feel, and I predict that's what it's going to be. So, basically, what I do, okay, when I train for a contest and off-season, I try to eat basically as clean as possible. I'm not one of these burger, pizza guys. I try to put on weight. My weight fluctuates probably about 30 pounds between pre-contest. Right now, I'm about 270. I should compete about 260 in 2 weeks. I get up to about 290 pounds off-season, but I'm in pretty decent condition. The only thing that really changes is the diet as far as what the calories come from. And I'm a big believer in year-round eating, basically somewhat low-fat diet. Low-fat meaning, maybe 1 lean steak meal a day, a lot of fish, shrimp, turkey breast, egg whites. My carb sources basically stick with rice, brown rice, a lot of oatmeal. I'm a huge, huge believer in oatmeal. A lot of green vegetables, especially asparagus, especially at contest time because it works as a diuretic. Definitely eating greens is, 4 meals out of my 7 right now. And then, my calories go anywhere from, right now, about 4,000 a day to probably 8,000 or 10,000 in the off season a day, which right now I get 7 meals a day preparing for the contest, and then off season I'll get anywhere from 10 to 12. And this basically is eating around the clock. I mean, I get up and set my alarm every 2.5, 3 hours. I'll eat through the night, and I sound like a broken record, but you know what, I'm like a machine, because you gotta fuel your body, and that's the most important thing with a bodybuilder, is you need to continually feed in order to grow, and you need to feed quality, okay? I suggest every 2.5, 3 hours. Off season, I'll sometimes eat every hour. Now, I like to give this example with my wife, because she lives with me and has to put up with me all the time, and does a lot of my cooking and has to look at my food all the time. She's learned to stick with basically the same diet. So my wife weighing 115 pounds, okay, weight training 5 days a week, and I think she's in very good shape, and I'm probably embarrassing her. She eats about 6 meals a day, okay? So she basically eats with me, okay? Maybe not, she doesn't set the alarm in the night, she's not that crazy. If she did that, she probably would not be my wife anymore. And she stayed in very good condition, even not training as much, because she's pursuing a degree right now, so she misses a lot of days, but her diet is absolutely straight. She eats quality protein, her main things being like shrimp, egg whites, a lot of protein powders, muscle type of course, and she eats a lot of oatmeal, rice, She hates vegetables, she won't touch the green vegetables. And so she stays with a pretty strict diet, and that's really how she's been able to stay in shape. So I think it's important for anyone, whether you're not, a lot of you here may not want to be a professional bodybuilder or want to be 270 pounds. I don't know why you would be, half you guys, but diet is 90% of what we do. Okay, that's always my first question when someone says to me, Jay, I'm trying to get big. What do I need to do? I say, well, what are you eating? And don't lie to me, because I know you're going to lie to me. And they say, well, I eat 3 meals a day, and but I know what they're doing. And it's usually that's the case, okay? And I really, for example, when I was a teenager, really didn't make the jumps until I learned how to diet. And, that's what I want to open up for. If you guys have any diet questions at the end, I want you guys to ask me, because I have a lot of, good diet tips and whatnot. As far as training, I train basically 2 days on, 1 day off. I do usually body part groupings as such. Day 1 is spent doing chest and calves. Day 1 workout session. Day 2, I do quads and hamstrings together on day 2. Day 3 is an off day. Day 4 is shoulders, biceps, and triceps. Okay, day 5 being back and traps. And I take the day off and I recycle. Abs are done usually 1 day out of the 2 training days. So they're probably done 2 or 3 times a week. Yes, I only train my calves once a week, because I feel that I've done them every day. I've done them every other day. And genetically, I did not have the best calves in the world. What I've learned for me is rest is more important, so everyone's different. Ronnie Coleman trains body parts twice a week. I don't know if he did a seminar here, or did he do a seminar?
Yes, I did.
So, and I'm sure, with Günther, I'm sure he talked about what his training, all our training is different. We have to make adjustments with our body and with our schedules. I seem to be a very active person. I run a lot of the business outside bodybuilding, so I'm kind of on the go quite a bit. And I know that I need more rest. Okay, for example, right now, training for this contest, I'm on probably the most insane bodybuilding schedule that any guy has ever trained for a show, okay? Just to give an example, my goal for this show was to come in ultra conditioned, but of course keep the mass. So what I needed to do was make the adjustment of eating every 2.5, 3 hours. With a higher protein diet than I've done the past few years, I've always been kind of a high carb guy, which I'm sure some of you have read. I actually backed out on the carbohydrates. I'm performing anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of cardiovascular work a day. And I'm eating 7 meals. And I'm training once a day with weights on that 2-day and 1-off schedule. So my schedule looks as such. I get up in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning. I get on the rotating stairs, the stair gauntlet. You guys know what that is, the stairs that rotate. And I do an hour of cardiovascular on that. For someone 270 pounds to get on that stair gauntlet for an hour, it took me a lot to build up to that, let's put it that way. I burn about 1,000 calories on that in that hour. Okay. Then I eat my first meal, which is basically 20 egg whites with mushrooms, a cup of oatmeal, which of course my wonderful wife at this time gets up to cook me before she heads off to class, and half a gallon of sugar-free Tang is my drink of choice for this show. Probably the best drink out there right now. Then I usually answer some emails, take care of some business mail order, which is very busy at my house. Sleep. Then comes meal 2. I basically have my fattiest meal of the day, which is usually 12 ounces of beef, with a big heaping of asparagus. And then I basically take a shower and let the dogs out. I have 2 dogs that are like kids. And I head off to the gym for my first weight training session, train about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Come home, 12 ounces of fish with half a cup of oatmeal. And then I rest, take care of some more business, eat another meal, same thing, fish, asparagus this time, okay, carbs are low. Orange Roughy I buy from Costco, which is probably the best deal, and a lot of you maybe have tried Orange Roughy because I hate fish. Orange Roughy is the only thing I can stomach at this point. And then I basically just kind of eat every 2.5 hours, take care of my business, and I try not to sleep more than an hour at a time. So I'm up and down through the night until I usually sleep from midnight to 2 a.m., set my alarm, get up out of a dead sleep at 2 a.m., and I actually head to the gym and I get on the cross trainer for an hour. Okay, so I get up out of a dead sleep and I drink a cup of coffee and I drive to the gym with the radio as loud as I possibly can. And there's no one out on the streets in Vegas at that time. They say it never sleeps there, but trust me, it sleeps. I'm in the gym with basically the cleaning staff and the lady sleeping behind the desk. And I get on this cross trainer, which uses the arms and the legs, probably less impact on the hips and knees, probably the best machine out there right now for cardiovascular. And I pump away for an hour. Okay, I come home, get out the old Foreman grill, cook the fish again. Or if I'm lucky enough, Carrie cooked it before she went to bed. She's over there saying, "Don't lie, I do that every night." And I basically take a shower. Actually, I tan next door to the gym when I'm done, about 3:30. 24-hour tanning salon. That's what's nice about Vegas, 24-hour gym, 24-hour tanning. Sometimes I go to the grocery store because they're 24 hours too, and there's no one in there at that time. But I always get someone that comes up to me and says, "Are you a professional bodybuilder?" 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, No. I run marathons. So, of course, I walk up and down the candy section and think, okay, what am I going to eat after the show? Let's see, how long do we have? Oh, 10 weeks, okay. Not yet. But you can ask my wife, I got a cabinet in my home right now that's being stocked for after the show with probably every possible junk food you can imagine. And I do this every contest, okay, and it's like a little teaser for me. I look at it every day and say, oh, only so much more time. At the end of every show, I come home from the show, and I look at the cabinet and I say, you kidding me? You think I'm going to eat this? And I give it away. If my wife didn't rate it before that. So I tan, I go home, cook my fish, go back to the training before I stop talking about food here. And I eat, maybe answer a few more emails. People think I'm crazy emailing them at 4 in the morning. But then I lay down usually around 5 a.m. Of course, tell my wife how good I look at the time after I pose in the mirror. And I sleep till about 7:30. And of course, here we are again, back on the stairwell. So my goal for this show, what I learned, is keeping my metabolism spinning as much as possible has got me in the best condition possible. Now I learned this not from bodybuilding, but Vegas is a big boxing place, okay? There's a lot of boxers there. A lot of techniques they use to make weight. They keep them up. They overtrain them. And I feel that that's kind of helped me get ready for the show. Staying up, keeping my metabolism faster by sleeping less. But of course, sleeping in stints, so I'm still getting the recovery and I'm still getting a lot of food. I'm actually eating more food than I've ever eaten for any bodybuilding show. When normally I used to sleep sometimes 8 or 10 hours straight, so I wouldn't eat during that time preparing for a show. Off season is different. I always thought cutting the calories is the most important thing, but actually preparing for a show and burning calories and eating enough to maintain the muscle is almost better because your body's in a constant heat all the time. Your body produces a lot of heat to burn the food. Okay? You're getting all this nutrition, you're the nutrition guy, right? So, it's definitely helped as far as bringing me into better condition along with the cardiovascular, which I never really did. And of course, the type of cardiovascular I'm doing with the stairs and the cross trainers definitely made me tighter in my glutes and hamstrings, and also the arm movement on the cross trainer. So if I would suggest to any of you what the best kind of cardio is, I would say stairs first. I would say cross trainer second, maybe third, like incline treadmill. Of course, go from there, bike. And then if some of you that like to do other things, you know, like jump rope and stuff, that's always good too, but I'm not doing too much jumping at this point. My weight training, I'm training probably the heaviest I've trained. I train anywhere, I basically try to focus on performing anywhere from 9 to 15 sets of body part, whether it be small, large body parts. I always keep the reps between 8 and 10. I used to be a high volume trainer, I've tried everything. This seems to be the best approach I've found so far, okay? I was overtraining for many years. I used to go in the gym and do 25 sets of body part. I used to do 40 sets for back, even when I got second at the Mr. Olympia 2 times. And winning 2 Arnold Classics, I was doing 40 sets for back. I do back twice in one day. I think I made some improvements on my back even from the Mr. Olympia to now by performing less sets and keeping the weight a little heavier. Okay, so that's basically what my training is looking like right now. Sticking with the core exercises, you know, people say, well, Jay, you know, what do you suggest for chest? What do you suggest for back? What do you suggest for legs? Well, my routines basically stick with what I started as a teenager, okay? For back, my basic exercises, pull-ups, deadlifts, bent rows, and I work off that. You know, use some hammer machines here and there. Chest, bench press, incline press, flies, same thing, shoulders, side laterals, presses. Legs, you know, I always squat heavy, whether it be front squats, whatnot. I'm sticking with basically a regular squat right now, which I think has brought some more sweep to my legs this time around. And I had to do this. I went to probably the hardest core gym in Vegas. I don't know if some of you been to Vegas. I'm training at the Gold's Gym on San Antonio Flamingo. It's one of the harder gyms out there. And I just actually shot my next training DVD, which will probably be released in June. I shot 2 segments already, and I do the other 2 about a week out from this show. So it's going to be probably the closest to a bodybuilding contest that anyone's ever seen. And of course, me in my best condition. So that should be out in June, and we'll show a little more detail, and of course, my diet and whatnot. What else can I touch on? Activities I like to do, besides eat. I like to go to the movies. I rent DVDs. I have a TV room that I just set up that I watch a lot of NBA football games. I buy the tickets. I'm a big sports fan. Vegas is a great place to get out. We go to a lot of dinners and shows. But you know, it's hard sometimes to walk around being as big as I am. You know, a lot of people stare. It's great when people come up and, you know, say, you know, hey Jay. But a lot of people come up and say, you're the muscle and fitness guy or whatever. Or this and that, or they say you're Craig Titus. Just to give you a funny story, because I know a lot of you guys like humor. This guy comes up to me in the airport like 2 years ago. He says to me, he says, "Hey man, I see in the magazines," he says, "Elite Priest, right?" And I said, and this is like right after I got second to Mr. Olympia. I was like the biggest name of bodybuilding at the time. He said, "No." I said, No, Jay Cutler, He goes, "Okay," and he walks away. I'm not popular, huh? I said, "Lee, I'm going to get him, man." So, you get a lot of recognition, and you get a lot of questions, and a lot of people think, well, how do you deal with some of these stupid questions and this and that? But a lot of people just don't know. I remember when I started, there's just a lot of things you don't know. I remember trying to teach my dad, who's 75 years old. I said, Dad, I need to put you on a diet. Your belly's getting big. You got to eat protein and carbs. You can't just sit there and eat carbs. He says to me, "What's the protein? What's the carb?" He has no idea. And realistically, society's not really taught enough about nutrition. I took nutrition classes when I was in high school, I think, but I really didn't learn anything, and they just taught me how to cook and stuff like that, but you really don't learn what's best for your body. And right now we have a severe problem with obesity and diabetes and whatnot. It's all stemming from the childhood, the foods that they're eating and whatnot. Now they're on this low carb kick. And I think basically in moderation you can get away with eating even some varieties of junk food, but the problem is people just overeat, and that's why I suggest breaking your meals down every 2.5 hours, 3 hours, okay? And they say, well, I don't have time to do that. Well, you need to make the time. You need to pack your food. I go on these weekend trips. Every weekend I guest post. I'm probably one of the most featured guest posters in the country right now, okay? You wouldn't believe some of the stuff I have to do to take food with me. I definitely take the powders with me, but I bring, the bag tuna, the canned tuna. I bring oatmeal in big bags, and if I have no food, I just take the oatmeal, I dump it in a cup, put a little equal in it, and sometimes I eat it dry, like sawdust. You have no choice. What are you going to do? You have to feed what I'm making money off of. This is my career. This is my profession. It's not like some of you that are doing it for hobby. If I don't basically produce, I don't get paid. I don't land the contracts. I lose the influence I have on all you guys sitting out here today. This kind of thing, this seminar kind of thing, and seeing this many people here, this is what drives us. You don't understand. Some days you get really depressed. You say, what are you doing this for when you win or lose? The losing side is really bad in this business, but a lot of people look up to what you do. And like I said, it's not just the bodybuilders, it's people in general. I had people come up to me at the expo, 56 years old, say, "Man, you inspire me, Jay." And I'm thinking, well, how can I inspire this guy? But, it's a whole lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes something that you're really dedicated to. And it all comes down to how much hard work you want to put into it. And I find that a lot of the questions being asked are lack of dedication questions. Okay, because as a bodybuilder, it's pretty sad to say, but you don't eat for taste, you eat for quality foods. If I had my choice, the people say, well, how do you diet, how do you eat that? I'm not going to lie to you. Half the stuff I eat, I don't really want to eat. Asparagus really isn't that good. I don't know if any of you guys eat it, but it's really not that good to taste. And dry oatmeal isn't the best thing in the world either. Thank God for Equal, Splenda or whatever, But, and you meet a lot of quality people that give you kind of the backbone of your career, and their suggestions and input make a major impact on what you do. A lot of people have influenced me, but I would say, most of the influences come from my fans where, a lot of them are brutally honest with me and say, this is what you need to do to win. Even though the suggestion may not be the best thing in the world, it gives me something to look at, and and take into context to put in my training and in my diet. And that's why, you know, I revamped my whole diet technique for this contest. For example, training for the Mr. Olympia, when I get second to Ronnie Coleman this 2003, so it's last year, I keep saying this year, God, the time flies, but I dieted for that show on 1,000 to 1,200 carbohydrates a day, no cardiovascular work, but I kept my protein pretty low, 300 grams a day, which is low for a 270-pound guy. Very, very low fat. No chicken, no red meat, no turkey. I ate fish and protein powder, that's it. My carb sources came from everything from bagels to rice to rice cakes, oatmeal, and even the sugar oatmeal, the little packets. It tastes so much better than the dry oatmeal. Carrie, you love those, don't you? You know, so you're talking a lot of simple sugars, a lot of fruits, honey. I basically had honey on everything. And even these sick concoctions I come up with, I'm sure you guys read the Coca-Cola mixed with protein powder shake. All right, only for taste, man. Who tried it? Mountain Dew tastes a little better than Coke. But hey, you know, like I said, you eat for the fuel the machine, and that's what I did because I was overtraining. I needed the calories. I probably dieted on 7,000 calories a day. I stuffed myself beyond belief to get my meals in. But I'll tell you, well, dieting for this show has been a lot easier because I'm not stuffing myself to the point in overtraining and just being overtired. I feel great, and this is definitely an approach I think I'm going to take now through the rest of my career. Now, at the end of my career, I know there's a lot of talk that I would retire soon and whatnot, but you know what? I'm definitely going to go for 3 more years, and we'll take it one step at a time. It all depends on my commitments to my contracts, and you know, right now, you know, trying to promote bodybuilding. I'm trying to step outside with working with Stage Lane Productions and here with the Muscle Machine car, working with die-cast cars, which you're going to see in Target, Walmart, AutoZone, with the J. Cutler endorsing signature. So we're trying to get bodybuilding a little bit outside and you know, present something more positive to our sport. So I guess, you know, I kind of talked a little bit and kind of ramble a little bit, but kind of shows you my little personality. I got a little bit of sense of humor. I'm not always that dry, boring type guy that people may think I am. And I guess I'll open up for a few questions. I'll try to take them and answer them, and that's it. So let's start with the first question.
On your cross trainer, do you, there's 2 different schools of thought. Do you interval train, or do you try to keep a percentage of your maximum heart rate?
What I try to do is I just try to bump my heart rate up. I usually try to get my heart rate to about 140. Okay, obviously, you know, it doesn't happen right away. So I usually set the machine to a standard manual setting, okay, and then I set it about level 3, okay. Now, resistance isn't real important, especially when you're trying to move 270 pounds of mass. You're going to burn calories, okay? That's the misconception, is you really need to, you don't need to train like an endurance athlete. You just need to basically burn fat and let the cardio burn the fat, which I was basically trying to do with my training before. With my heart rate, basically, I was resting in between my weight training sets probably about 30 to 40 seconds. Now I rest about a minute, okay, let the cardio do the work. So it's just like the bike would be the same way. I wouldn't put it on level 10, I would put it on level 1 or 2 and pedal, and then just try to increase and keep going. I mean, obviously once your heart gets going, it stays up. And we're just trying to tap into body fat storage, and of course at this time there's not much left, so I'm not trying to overtrain either.
How do you get rid of the bore days before competition? Do you do that sodium loading or not at all?
Well, I've done many techniques, and obviously I've had fluid problems in certain contests. I've carb loaded, I've carb depleted, I've sodium depleted. Basically for this show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk into the contest without having to do much. What I'll do is I'll basically, what I've done in the past, I've cut my water to nothing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, cutting sodium Wednesday night for a Saturday show. But I would suggest definitely cutting your fluids Friday before the contest, Friday morning, not drink Friday and Saturday. Okay, cutting your sodium basically Wednesday before the show. Wednesday night should be your last salt meal. And it shouldn't be a considerable amount of salt at that time either. But you gotta make sure you're drinking a lot up to that time. I mean, I drink, like I said, I drink half a gallon of whatever, Crystal Light or right now sugar-free Tang with every meal. So I'm drinking over 3 gallons of fluid a day right now. Okay, so your water or fluid intake should be very, very high anytime preparing for a contest. It'll help rid your body of water, obviously, when you cut it down like that. But I would taper it. Definitely drink normal till Wednesday, taper half of that on Thursday, and then cut it totally on Friday and Saturday.
What do you recommend for joint pain, things of that nature with the continued training?
Well, fortunately, you know, right now I'm 30 years old and I really haven't felt terrible joint pain. What I think has helped with that is I do take about 100 pills a day of different antioxidants and supplements and whatnot, but I think that taking like the flax and like evening primrose oil, essential fats actually work the best. The fish I eat, I think it really helps, which has a lot of omega-3s, which I think helps. But I've heard glucosamine's real good. Yeah, it was really, you know, popular for a couple of years, but it seems like it kind of dropped off. But I really think that, you know, diet with you know, the right kind of fats really, really helps. And of course, taking care of your joints, which means not training like too heavy and you know, avoiding such things that hurt. Like, you know, I try to do like the cross trainer instead of doing stairs all the time, you know. Kind of keeps that impact down because that can be high impact. The treadmill is probably the worst on your running on a treadmill or, you know, streets. A lot of you may be runners. I know these guys in the service must run a lot. And, you know, that can be bad on your knees, shin splints.
Pre-contest, when you start carb depleting, how low do you go and what is your carb rotation like?
Well, this time around, I'm basically going to stay at what I'm at now, which is basically about 200 carbs a day. I'm probably not going to do any depletion, but for example, for the Mr. Olympia, when I just got second, I depleted on 500 carbs a day because I was eating so much. So I never suggest to do 0 carbs. Obviously, when you take out carbohydrates, when you carb deplete, you've got to up your protein, which you basically take the assimilation of your protein carbohydrate, which basically has the same calorie count, to you know, and add the protein where you take out the carbs, so it almost doubles, probably somewhere around there.
So you don't recommend a ketogenic diet?
No, I don't. Not for bodybuilding. You need some carbohydrates. I mean, I would never suggest that unless you were really, really heavy, which doesn't look like that's the case with you.
How do you avoid injury before you go into a gym? Warm up, stretching?
I do warm up. That's a good question, actually. I didn't touch on that. Gary, you're supposed to remind me of this stuff. My mind is in like backwards function right now. I warm up 10 minutes on the bike for every workout. And the reason why I did this is I had a lot of injuries after the 2003 Mr. Olympia, where I was having a lot of strains. I jumped right back into training, obviously, for this show. And it really affected, you know, a few of my hamstrings and my pec. I had a strain. But I always suggest doing some sort of bike treadmill. Sometimes I do the trainer, 10 minutes. And then I stretch every single day. My wife is a big yoga enthusiast, so she's taught me a lot of different yoga stretches, and I'll tell you, I look like a weirdo in the gym doing these kind of stretches. She's on my back and has me upside down and sideways. People always go, what's this guy doing over here? And it's really, really made a difference. Also, I have deep tissue therapy, which is called actually neuromuscular therapy. I don't know if there's any massage therapists in here, or someone that's had that type of therapy. It's probably the most painful therapy, but I have it done twice a week. Costs me $100 a session, so I pay $200 a week just to have deep tissue work done. And this is part of my success, I feel. It's really, really opened up the tissue, helped me avoid a lot of injuries. And I've never had a major injury in 12 years, okay? And I've trained smart and I've trained very, very stupid. But I always learned that, you know, bodybuilding is not about the ego. I had a million people ask me, you know, today, yesterday, at this expo, well, how much you bench press? You know, why aren't you doing the world's strongest man? Well, that's not what we do. It's not about the weights. I can go in sometimes and curl 45 pounds and get the biggest pump of my life. Sometimes I can do 100 and not even feel it. Okay, so it has nothing to do with weights. Everyone's different. I mean, for example, someone like Vince Taylor, a lot of you are familiar with Vince Taylor, professional bodybuilder. I mean, this guy barely does any weights at all, and he's developed an amazing physique. Okay, I've seen him do 20-pound cable curls and his arms blow up like they're gonna burst. So you really, you know, and then someone like Ronnie Coleman who trains pretty heavy all the time. But you know what? A lot of these times people are looking at these weights in the magazines and it's just a sit-up shoot. We're doing 1 rep with them or whatnot. You know, we don't always train that heavy. Okay, the training videos, a lot of it's done for show. They're basically there to give you a basic guideline, but you can't follow everything to a T because honestly, sometimes, you know, that a lot of the things done is just basically to give the viewers something more to see, okay? Every day is obviously not the same for us, okay? It can be Groundhog Day every day, so. We just try to create a vision of what we do in our lifestyle and what it entails to be a professional athlete, especially at this level, okay? Which a lot of you may be striving to do, and some of you just may be interested in learning, obviously, you being here today. Okay.
Hey Jay, I'm a big fan of yours. When was your last cheat meal? Or when you got to eat whatever you wanted to eat? What was it?
Terry, when was it? Honestly, when I diet for shows, I don't have a cheat day like a lot of guys do, like they pick a Sunday or whatnot. My cheat, I think she's over there saying we went to the nice steakhouse at the Palms Hotel, I got a steak. And I consider that a cheat because I know that steak, it was too good to be plain. That was, I think, was that 10 weeks from this show? Yeah, around New Year's, she's saying. I started dieting for this show 2 weeks after the GNC Pro, which was November 9th, so I dieted through the holidays. I didn't have Thanksgiving, Christmas this year, but it seems like every year I don't have that, so. I actually had a trip planned to go back to Massachusetts with my wife to see my family because I haven't been back there since I moved to the West Coast back in 1999 for Christmas, and we both planned a trip to see our families, and I had to cancel because by that time I was already pretty in-depth with my training. So she went solo and had to explain to everyone why Jay wasn't there. And I stayed home and I trained because sometimes that's the dedication it takes. I knew being around that food, somehow my hand would slip into the cookie jar, and that's it. Once you start eating, you can't stop. So.
How often do you go out and party?
I maybe party twice a year. The last time I went out was Memorial Day, I think, last year. Yeah. Craig Pettis lives in Vegas too, and you know, he's the party king with promoting the parties. But I don't really go to the after parties and that kind of stuff. I mean, they're a great time, but honestly, after the shows, I'm like really tired. and like I said, I book almost every weekend at guest spots. And I do go out sometimes when I go on these guest spots, you know, the promoter takes me, you know, to a nice restaurant or club, like Lonnie, I guess, puts his collegiate show every
I have
year.
a question. When are you gonna be around this area anytime in the next few months, like guest posing?
I was getting that, Lonnie. Lonnie's, I would say he's a good friend of mine.
Can I tell him what I said when you won your pro card?
I think they probably already read it, but you can
This
say.
is,
I'm Lonnie Tieper from Iron Man Magazine. I just want to say that I'm very happy to be wrong about this guy. He's one of the true great guys in the sport of bodybuilding. But when he won his pro card in 1996 in Dallas, he was just turned 23 years old. All his family was there. I shook your hand. I said, Jay, congratulations, because you're never going to be a great pro. You know, enjoy this. You're a blocky white guy. You won't be able to match up against these guys. Well, I thought I was right at the beginning, because his first pro show, you were like tied for 11th at the NOC. I said, yeah. And I betted this little guy named Johnny Moya to beat him for a dinner. And I won, you know, and I was every mouthful, I said, I told you, man, Cutler can't make it. And then, of course, he started getting better and better. And I was like stunned. I think it was at the 2000 Night of Champions. And he went and just blew away the field. So I have a column called News and Views in Iron Man. So what I did is I wrote an open letter of apology to Jay Cutler, saying, you know, I was wrong. The guy is a tremendous pro, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. And I will go on record saying right now, a week from Saturday, he will win his 3rd consecutive Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. Thanks.
And that's the thing coming from him. Okay, but Lonnie's been a major supporter of myself, and we do speak when I can get on the telephone. Last time he called me last week, I answered the phone. He said, man, you sound terrible, and the phone cut out, and he knew not to call me back. I appreciate that, Lonnie.
I could tell you didn't want to talk when you were in contest mode.
But just to touch upon, Lonnie does put on a great contest every year. It's the collegiate show out here. I guess posed last year in Pasadena.
And junior college.
Yeah, junior cal, it's added another division class, so you know, I do come out for that every year and probably will continue as long as he wants to bring me in, as long as I keep winning.
June 26th.
June 26th, obviously.
If he's 3rd at the Arnold, I'll tell you who's I'm replacing him with. I'm just kidding.
Any volunteer guest posers? Believe me, the money's not that good.
That's true.
But he does feed me well, and I'll be ready to eat in June, and in 2 weeks.
Can you please tell us how you work on your routine and the compulsories, and do you work on your stance and walk on and off the stage?
Well, we definitely, I try to pose every day, because I take, you know, my wife has to take a look at me and make sure that I'm in mode, so we kind of go through our turns every day, our poses. As far as routine, I have a music guy that I use from Massachusetts, Todd Yancey. I think you did a segment on him before. He does all my routine music. It's tdancy.com. You can check out his website. He did Dorian Yates and Dee Labrada. I have a pretty different routine this time around. It's going to be much more polished than it has been in the past. So, you know, basically what I do is just try to practice, put the routine together about 7 weeks from the show, and I definitely start posing at least 3 times a week, beginning 7 weeks out, which is a lot of work. And now, being as close as I am to the contest, I'm performing a lot of photo shoots, and I have a lot of expectations, so I'm being worked quite a bit. I'm shooting the training videos, so I'm posing in that, so it's helping bring out a lot more definition and whatnot. But you know, you kind of critique and work from there, and kind of twist and turn yourself into different poses. And you know, every stage is different. You know, when I competed at the Arnold, Olympia, the stage is totally different. You know, Ironman stage is different, so sometimes you have to work your routine to that. I know my routine this year, I plan to walk out to music. We're not allowed to walk out to the music now. Music's going to start when we stand center stage. Okay, so they changed that. Usually, sometimes you could walk out. Okay, I'm getting the signal that we are out of time. Let me just get this guy in the back. He's got his hand up here. Yeah.
What's the best advice that you would give a teenager like myself that's wanting to do his first competition?
Well, definitely, you know, the first thing is to get out there. You know, everyone says, well, how do I get, you know, how do I know when I'm ready? Well, you don't know until you're on stage. That means draw out a specific diet, you know, train for a contest, commit to that contest, give yourself 12 or 16 weeks to prepare, and you learn. Okay, you're not going to be your absolute best at the first time out, so it's just getting the best to get out there, and believe me, it took me, even after I get my professional card, I was nervous to go on stage. I would shake and whatnot. Now I go out there and it's like, you know, I have to just deal with it. I'm in my underwear and there's all these people looking at me, and that's how I do it. So.
Jay, how'd you learn how to pose?
I was kind of taught just by people looking at pictures in the magazine, watching videos. Like I said, I work with a choreographed guy that does my music. He helped me. So you learn. Is that it? Are we wrapping up? Someone's coming in after me? All right, one more question.
Can we see a little demo of one of those poses?
I'll give you a front door bicep. This is a sneak peek. I wouldn't do this for anyone, okay? This is going to be it now.
Oh, damn.
You guys want to see a little bit
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
You say one more, she says one more.
Do you record yourself?
Pay-per-view. You lost the 3D version.
And of course, you know what? Every year we try to bring you Mr. Olympia. And of course, this year we have a new champion. And he's awesome. He's looking awesome. He's in a tank top, so you can see why he won the show. So let's give a big round of applause, courtesy of Weeder Publications, the new Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler!
He's on. How's it going, guys?
Good.
I know everyone's probably tired. I've been walking around all weekend. I just drove in from Vegas yesterday, so I got to catch a little bit of the show last night. You guys attend the show? What do you guys think?
Good.
The judges all right or no?
No.
Are the judges in this room? I gotta be careful what I say. You got it? No judges? I didn't say anything that time. All right, people are going to shuttle in as we talk a little bit here, and what I just want to say is, you know, thank you guys for coming out here today. And I know I'm kind of at the end of the weekend here, and when you know, Ironman magazine asked me to come out this year, it was you know, it's kind of special for me. Is that loud? Is that too loud? All right. Just tell me if I'm talking too loud. You know, especially this year after winning the title, I came out in 2004. I think I did a seminar that year, and you know, I kept saying how I was going to win the title every year, and it never came true. But you know, in 2006, it finally happened. So it was a big deal for me after training for 16 years, and you know, at 16 years old, picking up my first bodybuilding magazine and saying, "Well, I want to be Mr. Olympia." And of course, you know, joining the gym at 18, and then you know, working towards a goal just to become better, and slowly moving up in the ranks, and now to become the best in the world. It's truly amazing, and it's definitely changed my life. And a lot of people have asked me through the years. They said, you know, what was your greatest moment of your career. And, you know, I had all these professional wins, Arnold Classics, you know, Night of Champions. But definitely that night at the Mr. Olympia was probably the greatest moment, probably of my life, when I won that title. Because the way I won, you know, it being, you know, the record-breaking year, Coleman was going for his 9th, and everyone was telling me, you know, you don't have a shot, you know, he's just gonna, you know, win his 9th and he'll retire. And it didn't happen. I stuck to my guns, and I came in strong for the competition, and he slipped up, and, you know, I grabbed the title and won, you know, my first Mr. Olympia, and the crowd accepted it with a standing ovation. They stayed, and I talked, and they stayed, and I didn't know what else to say, actually. Some of you guys are probably there. It was, you know, it's one of the greatest moments, probably the greatest moment in bodybuilding history. So I'm really glad to be part of that. And I'm glad to be here speaking in front of you guys today. So what I'll actually talk a little bit about is my life as a professional bodybuilder. When they asked me, you know, Jay, will you come do a seminar? What are you going to talk about? And I thought about it, and I said, I don't know. I'll kind of just, you know, talk about my life, because you really don't know. That's what I kind of like about doing my seminars. I travel every single weekend all around the U.S. and, of course, overseas a lot this year, doing these types of things. And this is actually what I enjoy most about being a professional bodybuilder, is be able to sit in front of crowds and speak to people and talk about my experiences, because it kind of gets you in touch with what the real person behind the bodybuilder is, because there's just so much more than just being in the gym and training, you know, so much background to make us what we are. And especially, you know, me, where it's, you know, I've come so close so many years and just missed it by a little bit. And I enjoyed, you know, winning, I enjoyed losing, and now hopefully going to continue the trend in 07 and win my second Mr. Olympia title. That's the goal right now. I'm just focusing on that contest. So right now I'm living in Las Vegas. I've been there for about 4 years. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I grew up in central Massachusetts, small town, Worcester County, which a lot of you probably don't know where Worcester is, but I grew up on a farm, actually. Town of 6,000 people. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, 3 brothers, 3 sisters, none of them weight train. I'm the only one. So there's no one bigger than me in my family. Why I started weight training? I fell in love with, you know, the pictures in the bodybuilding magazines. Chris Dickerson, Mr. Olympia, was the first bodybuilder I actually saw. And I told my brother, who was about 12 years older than me, I said, I want to look like this guy. And he looked at me, he says, are you crazy? I said, why would you want to look like that? The guy's got like muscles in his feet. I said, well, that's how I want to look too. I do have muscles in my feet. I probably have the ugliest feet alive. Fred Flintstone feet, they call them. So I knew I didn't want to work on the farm my whole life. My brothers actually did concrete work, so I was forced to actually work a lot. I started working at about 11 years old. I spent my school vacations, weekends, after school working in the family business. And I think that's really what gave me the backbone of what it takes to be a top bodybuilder nowadays, is the discipline to get up every day and do that, because I hated it. I used to pray every morning, please get me through this day, because I hated it so much. And I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do my whole life. I mean, I had a decision, you know, it seemed to be what everyone did back where I grew up. You know, they worked on farms, worked construction. So I decided to join the gym on my 18th birthday to pursue my dream to be bigger. Yeah, and I didn't realize it would come so quickly. I put on about 50 pounds my first year of training. I was going to college, actually to pursue a degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be a police officer. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be a cop. I got to be kind of jacked up, you know. So I started training, and I'd go home in between classes. Hey, buddy, how you doing, man?
For your motivation.
Okay, cool.
You're the true superhero. I'm trying to get there.
All right, cool. I wasn't sure what you dressed up in over there. I thought it was a joke. So I go home between classes, I would eat my way to sleep. I remember I just had a lot of time to kill, which I wasn't used to because I was used to working the family business, so I was going to college and I was working part-time security. I always seemed to pick the part-time jobs that allowed me to be able to eat. I remember when I go on my security job, I'd have my Jeep at the time, and I was guarding this building, and I said, okay, how can I work this so I can get all my meals and everything? So I remember I used to bring an extension cord with me to work, and I'd park my Jeep in the corner in the parking lot, and I'd plug an extension cord into the wall, and I had a microwave, a TV, a VCR, and a heater, all plugged into my extension cord, and I sit in my Jeep and I eat meals and watch movies. And then once the supervisor would come, I'd have to stash all my stuff. I'd put a blanket over it and pretend I'm walking around a lot. And needless to say, that job ended, and I moved on to the golf course job. Probably to this day, my favorite job besides being a professional bodybuilder. So I'd get out there on the golf course. They'd say, oh, I think you're going to mow greens by hands this morning, and I'd say, no, I'm not. And at the time I was about 240, so they'd say, okay, you're not going to mow greens this morning by hand. You're going to have to ride the tractor. I said, okay, that's more like it. So I'd bring my cooler, I'd strap my cooler onto the machine, and I'd head out on the golf course about 4:30 in the morning, wait for the sun to come up, find a nice place to park my machine, and I'd eat my meals for the day. So that was how I gained most of my weight very quickly, is I just ate like crazy. I had everything I could, mainly chicken and pasta. And I was in the gym training, and a lot of people approached me, they said, oh, you should be a bodybuilder. I said, all right, I'm starting to get a physique, I should do that. So I competed in a local show, placed second, my first contest, and the rest is kind of history. I became a teenage national champion at 19, best in the country. Actually, lost the overall title to a guy named Branch Warren, a lot of you guys are familiar with. He beat me in the overall. He was still a lot smaller than me, but he still beat me because he was better conditioned. But that was the point where I said, okay, I'm going to pursue my life as a professional bodybuilder. So I took a trip to California, watched a lot of guys train, and kind of learned. I read a lot of magazines, read a lot of books, did as much research as I could to try to find, the best knowledge I could, and came back, won the tournament champions at 22, which is a show here. I actually flew all the way from Massachusetts. Financing my way along the way. I didn't have much money. I remember driving, my beat up car to the gym, and I didn't care as long as I could afford my food for the day and be able to train. And I won that tournament of champions in 1995, and that's where I basically hit kind of the big time. I landed my first cover of Muscle and Fitness. I met, the father of bodybuilding, Joe Weider. He offered me a contract, and here I am starting to make money in what I love to do. So I earned my professional status in '96 and moved on from there. And of course, won 3 Honor Classics, Night of Champions, runner-up at the Olympia. I hate to say 4 times because it's very frustrating for me, but luckily it wasn't 5, and now, holding the ultimate title. So how I got there, it was through a lot of trial and error. Even as a professional bodybuilder, a lot of you guys must think, well, Jay Cutler's at the top of his game. He must know his body inside and out, but that's very far from the truth. Every year, we actually prepare truly a different way. There's been a lot of shows where I've eaten all sorts of carbohydrates, all sorts of proteins. I've done no cardio. I've done 3 hours of cardio. The last couple of years is really kind of where I landed my place in what I do for preparation. 2005, 2006 Mr. Olympia. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about a little bit with my approach of my training, my diet, because it seems to be what's holding me steady on top right now. When I was here in 2004, I was getting up in the middle of the night doing cardiovascular. Any of you guys here for my 2004 seminar? So I was doing a crazy thing to win the Arnold Classic that year. I was trying to trick my body into doing different things. But now I'm basically living, you know, somewhat of a normal life. I hate to call bodybuilding normal because it really isn't. And I eat, right now I'm in the off season, I eat anywhere between 8 to 10 meals a day. I eat every 2 hours. Try to get in about between 400 and 450 grams of protein. I weigh almost 300 pounds. I'm 295 today. I compete about 270 for the contest. And my carbohydrates range average between 800 to 1,200 carbs a day, which seems like an outrageous amount, but for my body weight, is that a lot? Yeah. Sorry, you can laugh, dude. I laughed at your outfit when you came in. But I'm a big believer in carbohydrates for getting big. I mean, right now, you know, I'm pretty lean condition. I've actually been doing cardio at least 3 times a week, half hour in the morning on empty stomach. And I'm weight training at least, you know, 5 days, 6 days a week. Right now I'm kind of listening to my body, just doing at least 1 to 2 body parts a day. I train sometimes twice a day, once a day. It just depends on my schedule. I travel every weekend, so it's very, very difficult. But the routine I suggest to everyone is train each body part literally probably, you know, at least once every 5 to 7 days. Okay, somebody's trained, you know, each body part twice a week, but I've always trained each body part once every 5 to 7 days. And I find the best result for that. I think you need at least 72 hours rest between body parts, so if you're going to do your body parts twice, that could work. But I find for me, if I try to train it twice a week, I get overtrained. Even sleeping, I sleep at least 8 to 10 hours a day. Sometimes I take naps during the day. Of course, now, you know, with my schedule, it's very difficult to do. But I sleep at least 8 hours through the night. I get up about 6 o'clock every morning. I eat at least 1 meal before I go to the gym. I usually train in the morning, somewhere around 10 o'clock, large body part. And then I go back home, eat a meal, run some errands, eat another meal, then I go back and train again. I try to take 5 hours in between the body parts if I train twice a day. Okay, you always got to take at least 5 hours between body parts. My training's usually only about an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. I usually spend an hour on each body part. You really should be able to get through a body part in no more than 1 hour. You should be able to blast through things in probably 45 minutes. I take anywhere between 45 to 60 seconds rest between each set. And I perform anywhere between 12 to 15 sets right now per body part. So if I'm going to do chest, I pick probably about 3 or 4 exercises. I do at least 3 or 4 sets per exercise. Get enough stimulation, get out of the gym and feed it. Okay, right now my body part grouping goes as such. It goes chest and biceps on one day. I do quads and hamstrings another day. I do back one day on its own. And I do shoulders and triceps and traps on another day. Calves are only done once a week, usually on chest day. I'm a big believer. Everyone says, Jay, you know, I'm trying to get my calves bigger. I still think you should train it like every other body part. I think it should be done, you know, hard and heavy, you know, 10 to 12 repetitions, and stretch in between, just go and shock them and then get out of the gym. Okay. This seems to be the best schedule for me right now. And like I said, I kind of take days off when I feel like it. Now, at the level that I'm at, after training for 16 years, I find that I can train more instinctive about each body part. I don't have to necessarily have a set plan. You really can't plan, and that's why I mentioned, you know, with you guys, I said, you know, just because I'm the top professional doesn't mean that I know exactly what I'm doing. I kind of just listen to my body, and that seems to be the best scenario for me, and I think that's why it's kind of put me over the top in 2006, and I think I'll be able to improve from there. I've been kind of training a little different. Still training pretty heavy. I always shoot for at least 8 to 10 repetitions per exercise. So when I say this, you should be struggling between, probably after 8 repetitions, be struggling where you're barely getting 10, and maybe with a spotter you can get 12. That's what I always tell people. So that's how you kind of pick a weight. By now, I can go in the gym and kind of judge how I feel, and I can
kind of map out what I'm going to do for that day. But when I'm driving to the gym every day, I always know kind of, okay, I'm going to do this first, I'm going to go there second, there third, and I really don't change things up a lot. If I did incline chest presses the week before, I mean, I still may start with incline chest presses. If you train with enough intensity and you push yourself hard enough with the weights, you really don't have to change a lot up. Everyone says, well, your body gets used to it. That's not necessarily true. If you train day in, day out with intensity and with a focus, you're going to get results no matter what. And you're going to go home, you're going to feed it, you're going to sleep enough. Those are the most important things. And as far as the diet, it's always up and down. Of course, being on the road, like a weekend like today, I probably had about 3 meals today. So if I told you I'm eating 10 meals today, I'm lying to you. And I basically just on the weekends lose at least 10 pounds. So when I get home on Tuesday, I might be down to 285, but it usually is just water. Every weekend, I suppose I seem to lose the most amount of weight. So it's really hard to judge really by weight what I look like. I kind of go by how my body feels and if I'm taking enough calories. But what I try to focus on is getting all my protein from egg whites, chicken breast. I eat 1 steak meal a day. I don't eat fish actually in the off season because I hate fish right now. Only when I start my pre-contest diet. Protein shakes, and that seems to be it for protein for me right now. Now as far as carbohydrates, I eat oatmeal, sometimes brown rice, white rice definitely after I train, and sometimes potatoes. I've been doing a new kind of diet, which I did for the Olympia. Some of you guys probably read my articles, where I'm focusing on more whole foods, eating for my blood type, which I'm focused on this bread and cereal from Whole Foods. It's called Ezekiel bread and Ezekiel cereal. Have you guys heard of this? Yeah. So I'm an O positive blood type, so they say I'm like caveman blood. So I can eat a lot of red meat, and I have to stay away from dairy. They say actually, you know, egg whites really aren't good for me. I still eat egg whites every day. I have my big jug of egg whites I get from Lana's Egg Whites. I just throw them in a pan and eat those every day, cook them up, and fry them up in the morning. The average, you know, breakfast for me would be 20 egg whites, 2 whole eggs, 4 slices of Ezekiel toast, and 1 cup of Ezekiel cereal and a cup of black coffee. So right there I'm eating almost 200 carbohydrates just for breakfast alone. Okay. And then the meal after I train, I'll eat anywhere between 200 and 250 carbohydrates of the cereal, white rice, and then usually a protein shake, at least 50 to 70 grams of protein. So what I shoot for each meal is between 50 and 70 grams of protein every meal. So I'll eat around 12 ounces of meat when I eat meat or a protein shake. 20 egg whites, about 60 grams of protein. And my carbohydrates, I try to take at least 100 grams of carbs every meal. My biggest meals of the day, of course, are my meal 1, which is my pre-workout meal also, and my post-training meal. Those are where I get most of my calories in the day. And then, of course, if I train twice, the post-training meal there also. I use the most amount of calories. So that's why I'm eating, like I mentioned, anywhere between 800 to 1,200 carbohydrates a day. That's what I shoot for. I weigh every meal. I measure out everything. I have a scale at home. I try to weigh every portion, and I try to be very, very exact. And that's why I can sit here and tell you time and time again, I mean, I eat the same breakfast, the same foods, the same thing year-round, even pre-contest. I don't change anything pre-contest except the portions. The foods all stay the same. So if you think, okay, well, Jay, what do you do different from pre-contest to off-season? There really isn't much of a difference, and that's why my physique really doesn't change a whole lot. I don't gain a whole lot of body fat. When I do have to bring the diet in for the contest, the only thing I will switch up is I will add a lot of fish to my diet. You guys have probably read my articles. You've probably seen me grocery shopping
in my videos and online. I eat 5 pounds of fish a day, and support Costco quite a bit. That's where I buy a lot of that meat. Like I said, I mentioned, for the Olympia, I was shopping at Whole Foods. That became probably double expensive as it used to be. I was eating a lot of ground chicken breasts there, ground turkey, but I always got my fish from Costco. And the best way I found for cooking that fish was outside, because we all know what happens when you cook that fish inside. What happens? Stinks up the house, right? Well, my wife, she didn't like her clothes in the closet smelling like fish anymore. So I got my big old Foreman grill outside. I put it right there next to the neighbor's wall. I cook that fish right up every morning, 6 o'clock. Neighbor stops me when I'm getting the mail in the afternoon. Back on that diet, huh? I kind of chuckle myself, how'd you know? I smell that fish, I like it. I said, oh man, this guy is crazy. This guy likes fish coming over to him while he's out of his mind. Yeah, the neighbors kind of think I'm a little crazy in my neighborhood. I actually just moved into a new house in Vegas, so I was living in almost like a retirement area. I didn't know this when I moved to Vegas 4 years ago. I bought in this complex 60 homes. Thought it was great, guard-gated community. Started driving around, like, man, I don't see much movement in this neighborhood. I said to my wife, "You gotta get neighbors, I don't see anybody out there." And we start seeing them out there, they're all driving like Cadillacs and Buicks. And they all seem to leave real early in the morning, and they're in for the rest of the day. And slowly but surely, I realized I was living in a retirement community. And I was the youngest guy. And here I was winning all these Arnold Classics, bringing home a Hummer every year. And they're sending me letters saying you can't park your vehicles outside. I said, what do I do? I got 3 Hummers. I went for the contest. But so slowly they just made me, I sold off the Hummers now. I don't actually drive a Hummer truck anymore. But that was a great experience when, winning 3 Arnold Classics. Arnold Classics are coming up every year. And I do miss actually competing that show right now, just going to focus on the Mr. Olympia. A lot of people ask why. You could probably go to the Arnold Classic pretty easily, but it's just very hard for me to peak nowadays twice. And I don't want to disappoint the fans in coming on at one show and off at another. But also, my travel schedule, traveling all the time, it's very, very difficult to prep for competition. And I think that's kind of what separates me a lot from the other guys is I'm just very, very dedicated. A lot of you guys probably read my story. Terry, my wife, who I've been with for 17 years. We started dating actually at 16. I actually told her on my first date, I said, I want to be a professional bodybuilder. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said, all right, that's cool. But, she's really, really supported me and given me the focus. I think we all kind of need that backbone when we're trying to succeed at certain goals, and especially when I'm trying to become the best bodybuilder in the world. And being, only 11th Mr. Olympia is quite a feat to do. And I really never thought it was possible, honestly, you guys. I mean, coming from small town, 6,000 people, it's not normal that produces a Mr. Olympia. And what, this contest, this past Olympia proved to me is that really anything can be done. I mean, I set my mind forward. I said, I'm going to try to be the best I can be. I was very focused. I was very determined. A lot of people said I couldn't do it. Too bad that's part of our sport. There's a lot of negative people trying to drag you down. I think it's with a lot of business. But you always have to stay positive and stay focused, and that's what I did. And I truly believed in myself once I started winning, and I realized that I could become the best. And I did. So we all have certain goals that we shoot out. We set out to do. We just, we really not sure of the outcome, but we all have to have the heart and the drive, the determination, the perseverance to just follow through, and no matter what the obstacles, fall into your path, you have to learn a way to jump over those and move forward. And I've kind of had those experiences, and being up here in front of you guys, it's like, you know, you guys can accomplish anything, and a lot of you guys probably looking to just, you know, look better yourselves. You're not trying to, you know, topple Jay Cutler down off the Mr. Olympia ground. Maybe this guy over here in the hat, but I don't know if I can stick around that long, bro. But we'll see. You keep me on my toes, dude. But whatever you do in life, I mean, you have to give 100%. And I believe that if you have a dream, you need to follow through with that dream. So, you know, with that, I want to open up. I want you guys to ask me a couple questions, whether it be, you know, whatever. Just ask me, you know, whatever you want, and then we'll roll with it, and hopefully you guys can feed off those questions, okay? All right, man, you first.
I want to know, when you win Mr. Olympia, did you feel like a true Olympic champion?
When I won the Mr. Olympia, I didn't sleep. I still don't sleep, honestly. I woke up this morning after being at the show last night. I remember walking out, I gave the second place award. And, you know, they announced Jay Cutler, you know, the Mr. Olympia, MC Lonnie Teeper. And the crowd, you know, gave their cheers and whatnot. And it brought me back, because that's the last time I really had, you know, that crowd behind me on the stage and pro bodybuilding show. And man, I was like, I woke up this morning at 7, I couldn't sleep because I was Mr. Olympia. I remember the next morning after the Mr. Olympia contest, I rolled over to my wife and I screamed out, "I'm Mr. Olympia." She's like, "Oh man, I'm so tired, you just put me through 12 weeks of hell." And I said, "Well, you're Miss Olympia." She smiled. What's she gonna do, kick me out of bed? I take up the whole bed. But I was in shock. It really didn't hit me. It's something, when you win something that big, it's the dream your whole life, you can't take it all in that moment. I mean, I was just like, I can't believe it, I won. But it's still, I'm still on the clouds with it, you know, I'm still down to reality, like, you know, I'm training to fight, you know, keep that title, but I'm still, you know, walking in the clouds from that. It's truly, truly amazing. So.
Are you religious?
I'm religious. I grew up in a religious family. I went to church. I mean, I pray every day. I don't go to church right now because of, you know, my travel schedule and whatnot. I'm never home on Sundays, and I don't go during the week. But I don't really preach religion. And a lot of these guys, you know, give thanks to, you know, Jesus Christ and whatnot, but I do pray every day. I believe.
Getting your movie deals?
No, not yet, dude. I gotta win another title first. So we're gonna get there.
How about any other sports, like high school football?
I played high school football. I played fullback defensive tackle. I was a decent player. I actually broke my kneecap actually when I was a junior. I wore a cast from my hip all the way to my ankle. But I really wasn't a big, I just really didn't like team sports that much because I hated losing because of someone else, and that's what I think bodybuilding is so great, is it's an individual sport. And when you lose kind of on your own, especially nowadays. But it definitely gave me something that I have in bodybuilding, that drive and, you know, that work ethic, like I mentioned, even growing up on the farm. You know, it's all part of that. My background is what's given me, I think, the edge.
But you always stay focused, or sometimes you go through periods where you are, you know, giving it up or just enjoying the sport?
I've always stayed focused. I've wanted to quit every year that I've lost Olympia. I mean, I've always quit that night, but you wake up the next day after eating a cheeseburger or whatever, you're okay. And but even, you know, at the top, I think, you know, I lose my focus once in a while. I mean, some of these trips kind of, when I skip, you know, training and whatnot, I do miss training, and it does kind of screw with your mind a little bit, but you get right back on track. It's, especially now, you know, I feel, you know, I'm kind of carrying the torch, so I need to be even more focused than I've ever been, which is very difficult to do because I feel I'm one of the most focused athletes. But we all go through some sort of depression points of our lives, and I try to stay positive. I mean, I try to look at the positive things I have, and you know, I truly believe, you know, I feed a lot off the fans now, you know, the emails and traveling every weekends to give me that positive influence.
Mr. Carter, I've always read kind of the piggyback on what you said. You said that if you would have won Mr. Olympia, especially in your early 30s, which you still are, you know, you would retire. How many more years can you plan on seeing before the sign down?
That's hard to say. I always said that if you read my early articles, I had planned to be a better bodybuilder early on, and you know, everyone knows, you know, I think I was 28 when I should have won the Olympia in 2001. I was second, and it would have been nice to be winning all these years if it wasn't for a guy named Ronnie Coleman. I would have been probably a 6-time winner by now. But being 33 years old now this year, I feel I definitely have, I think, 2 solid years left. 35, 36, I can say. I'm not really going to say when I'm going to retire because that's a mistake. But I will retire when I can't do any more good for the sport of bodybuilding on a competitive side. I feel I'm going to be able to represent bodybuilding even once I retire. That's my goal. But when I'm not to be able to perform as Mr. Olympia, I mean, obviously that's the time to step away.
As Mr. Olympia, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that would like to start training with steroids?
Research it. Research it. Talk to others that have, you know, been involved in that kind of thing. I mean, we can't run from the fact that our sport is surrounded by, you know, drug use like a lot of the other sports. But the problem is people are reading a lot of information and not listening to the right sources. I mean, if it's your choice, you definitely should see a doctor because of people's genetics and what good it can actually do to your body. You have to research it fully. You can't just decide one day, okay, I'm going to take steroids and I'm going to become huge and I'm going to become Mr. Olympia, because it doesn't work like that. If that was the case, it wouldn't be 11 Mr. Olympias. So you need to look into it, and remember, you make that choice of using drugs, you can never turn yourself back. So that's something you really have to consider when you're going to make that step.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
When you won Mr. Olympia, how much did you weigh, and then how much did you weigh on a regular after?
I was 274 on Friday. It was a 2-day show this year. I was 274 on Friday, and I was 267 when I won on Saturday night. And this year, I don't know. It's hard to really say it. Right now, I said 295, 285 by Tuesday when I get home. You know, I think I'm in better shape last year at this body weight than I was, and I'm not trying to come in bigger. I'm just trying to come in better, which I think for me is just going to be adding more detail to my physique. I need to be better conditioned. You know, we're not perfect. I have some body parts I want to improve, mainly my quads and my arms, upper chest, you know, but, you know, bring more back condition and hopefully run with it in 07.
Yeah, do you take a lot of energy drinks, and are they good for your health?
Energy drinks meaning what, like Gatorade, that kind of stuff?
No, like red line and all that
Oh, no, I don't use that stuff. I'll be running around the house with my dogs, dude. I'll be peeing on the bushes and everything. I'm not a big believer in products that really make your heart race. I mean, that's why a lot of the new products, even like, you know, of course, you know, with the Muscle Tech line, the Hydroxycut Hardcore, you know, they took out a lot of that offender and whatnot, so it doesn't give you that racy feeling as much anymore. I have my coffee in the morning, my black coffee, and that's about it. But I'm not, I used to be a big ephedra junkie, I'll admit to you I was. And it becomes addicting. But I was sick of just, you know, laying in bed and, you know, jarring and whatnot because my head was spinning so fast, you know. It's probably not that good.
What muscle group was the most difficult for you to work out? And what kind of routine did you do to get over that?
I would say, you know, don't really want to say, people would look at, from reading the magazine the last couple of years to say, oh, Jay needed a better back. But I think probably my chest. I was always a wide, structured person, so to build my chest, it took a lot of effort for me to do that, and I had to learn how to bench press the correct way to get stimulation in my chest. And a lot of people don't realize when you bench press, you'll see a lot of people, they touch the bar to their chest, and they go up and they do full range. What I found works best for me, and you'll see a lot in my training videos and whatnot, is I actually stop about 2 to 3 inches shy of my chest, okay, to keep tension on the chest. When you bring it down, you actually touch the bar to your chest, you're actually losing a lot of the contraction from the chest, you bring in the triceps and the shoulders, and not only is it taking stress off your chest, but it's also risking the point of injury where you can tear a body part, especially the most critical joint in the body, which is your shoulder joint, is probably the most injured body area of any athlete. Okay, it's a very complex joint. So I would say my chest, and I think focusing on that, doing a lot of just sticking to presses, incline presses, decline presses, and flat benches. I think that's where I built most of my chest. If you ask me, Jay, what'd you do for your last chest workout? That's all I did. I did those 3 exercises. I did flats, declines, and inclines. I did 3 sets each, 9 sets. Went heavy, hard, and got out of the gym. That was enough for me.
What's the first words that Ronnie tells you after the Olympics?
Ronnie told me on stage, he said, "You beat me, dude. You won." And I didn't know what to say, But when I won the title, when they announced my name as the winner, you guys have probably seen it, I raised my hand, but my first thought was actually to raise Ronnie Coleman's hand because of the great champion he is. Was an 8-time winner. We battled it out for 4 of those where I was runner-up, and I have a great amount of respect for Ronnie Coleman. Great champion. Coming back this year, trying to be stronger than ever. But I feel I'm coming into my own, and I feel very confident. Very confident, actually more confident than I've ever been to retain the title in 07.
Yeah, Jay, it's no secret, even though he denied it, Ronnie had accrued some injuries through the years of training. He was 42 last year. He's definitely coming back. He's going to be 43. Do you feel confident that you're not going to have to face the best of Ronnie Coleman anymore?
Well, you being an expert too, I think we can agree that at 43 years old, it's very difficult to be your best ever. I mean, I think that we all reach certain points of our career that we're all-time best. I mean, I was haunted by 2001 where people think that was my best ever. It could have been. I may never see that again. But the point is I'm the champ today, and it really doesn't matter in the end of the day whether you look as good as you ever did. It really depends on how the other guys come and what package they bring. And that's the thing about bodybuilding where, we train all year for that one moment, that 15 minutes of what it takes to be the best, and everyone can slip up. I mean, people would say that Ronnie wasn't his best this year and that's why I won. If that's how it is, that's how it is. I'm the champ.
I also know that a lot of fans don't know what Jay had to go through a couple weeks prior to the Mr. Olympia. He became very sick. And did it ever concern you going into the show? Like, am I even going to be able to make it?
Yeah, I mean, Lonnie's referring to, I did get sick before the contest. I lost actually 20 pounds. I was 290 pounds. I fell to 270 pounds about 12 days before the competition. I was running on IVs daily and trying to replenish my body with branched chain aminos and fluids because I was running to the toilet constantly and I couldn't hold anything in. I lost my appetite. But it concerned me a lot. I cried. I honestly cried to my wife and I said, I can't believe the best year. There was so much, everyone had seen what I looked like, 2 weeks prior. And there was so much talk like, I think this is the year Jay's going to do it. When you lose 20 pounds in 2 days, you really don't know, what's going to happen. I said, please, please get me to this contest. I just want to get there. I have so much riding on the show, not only for myself, but, from the fans and also the sponsors and whatnot, it's very, very crucial when you compete only once a year. You can only prove yourself that one time. So it did concern me, but, fortunately, God was on my side. I made it to the competition. I looked, best I looked in years, if not ever, and, we won the title. So I think this year, like I said, my confidence is that I will not get sick, and I will bring in a better package than 2006.
Hey Jay, it seems like that since the 70s there's a lack of connection with the mainstream, and a lot of that is because of the Mr. Olympia. Do you feel you can do something different as the previous Mr. Olympias from the 80s and 90s and 2000s did to represent our sport?
I feel I can. I'm really trying to do a lot of stuff right now. I have a lot of stuff in the works. Some that has fallen through, but I'm actually in town, actually staying a couple extra days to meet up with some people that are going to put me in, hopefully in that direction. I've went through a few people already, and the problem is in today's society, people want to take your money and do nothing. So when we're talking about PR companies and agents and that kind of stuff, we know how that can get when it's not benefiting them as much. The problem with a lot of these PR companies, you pay them a fee. Usually they require a 3-month retainer, which can cost anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000, and they're paid for 3 months. So really, what else do they have to do? They already have your money. So we're working in that direction. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to bring something new to the table. We're all fighting off, what our friend mentioned over here, and that was, the steroid topic and whatnot. So we have to promote the benefits of, health and well-being, and of course the sport of bodybuilding, but we need to come together, and we need the people to promote themselves in a much positive way. We can't be surrounded by the negative sides of our sport. And like I mentioned, that can really bring the sport down, and we read on the internet, a lot of negative publicity. People kind of laugh at what we do. We've had kind of a mix up in the Mr. Olympia last couple of years with the challenge round where it kind of turned into a fiasco. We need to go back to old school bodybuilding, which we did this past year. As you saw last night with the Pro Ironman show, there's a lot of great benefits to having just a straight bodybuilding show. You see these athletes perform. They got rid of a lot of the props that were involved in routines, and that's what we love our sport for, is just truly bodybuilding. But I think now with the new champion, and of course Ronnie Coleman coming back, this should be the best selling Mr. Olympia ever. There's no reason why we can't pack 10,000 people in the seats come September in Las Vegas, and hopefully we can move it to a bigger and better venue, because we all know the Orleans Arena is the best place to have it. It used to be Mandalay Bay, and the New Orleans Hotel is not up to that standard.
Did it help that you live in Las Vegas? You're like a hometown feeling, like you really got lecture support?
Absolutely, that's why I moved there, man. Train for the show to win,
Does it make it easier when you have all
Oh yeah, you don't have to travel, your food's right there. I stay at home. You're kind of in your element. You look into the mirrors that you looked at for the past 12 weeks. You look into the same lights and whatnot. You can realize what your body changes and what it doesn't. It's definitely an advantage.
In your training, you train synthetically, and do you use some kind of periodization in your training where some weeks you can go heavier, then you sometimes you go a little lighter, or you always try for a heavier weight?
It's just, most people's theories are the bigger you get, the stronger you get. That's not necessarily true. It all comes down to your activity levels. And like I mentioned, when I travel every weekend, I might come back on a Monday or Tuesday and exhausted from the weekend. I'm not going to go in there and bench 500 pounds. But there's other weeks when I stay home for 4 weeks, I might be able to go in and do that. So I kind of listen to my body, and I luckily have avoided injury through my entire career. I have not been injured. I've trained very smart. Some days I go in the gym, I'm strong as a house, and other days I go in and I still so-called kill it, like you say, Dave. But it's not as heavy as maybe the time before, but it's enough stimulation to do the job. And that's what separates a champion from just a decent bodybuilder, I feel.
What do you think about Ronnie and his comments after the Olympia about you and his loss?
I have mixed opinions about that. Ronnie Coleman never said that stuff to my face. I mean, in the European tour, he was, nice to my face, and You know, he said it's your time. And he should have just, you know, kind of reserved probably some comments. But, you know, the media is going to blow that stuff anyway. You guys read the magazines and whatnot. And some of the stuff is being a little exaggerated probably. But he does not make the best comments sometimes. But I feel I should have a little more respect being the champ and being there for so many years. It kind of hurt me a lot of years where he thought, you know, Jay's not the next heir apparent to the throne. I mean, I was second for so many years and I didn't really get the respect, but I never get the respect anyway, so it's not really a problem in my mind. I'm more focused than ever, and I believe in myself, so that's all that matters. I'm not going to listen to what anyone else thinks, because I really honestly don't care.
Now, we all know that Ronnie's coming back, but do you think, who do you see giving you more of a challenge? Somewhere along the lines of Victor Martinez, Dexter Jackson? I guess who do you not necessarily worry about because you're the champ, but who do you see kind of in your rearview mirror and you keep them in the back of your mind to a certain extent?
I mean, when I think about all these guys, you know, I thought about Gunter for years. I guess he's taken some time off. You know, Victor definitely, you know, he's third place this year. So, you know, you know, on paper, he would be, of course, the guy to watch for, other than Coleman. You know, Dexter Jackson's been there. He's actually beat me in my successful years here at the GNC in 2004, which I still don't believe I should have lost, but you know, we always think when we lose, we shouldn't lose, so that's one of those things. But you know, everyone's a threat. Who would have thought I would have moved up to be a contender for Miss Olympia when I was 8th one year at the Olympia? Next year I was basically winning the contest.
Jay, who do you consider the good guys in bodybuilding that have supported your career, and can you name some names?
From the beginning, probably Ed Connors from Gold's Gym. Irvin Gelb was a photographer that shot me first. Joe Weider, definitely, he gave me my first contract ever.
How about some competitors?
Over the years, you know, Gunter and I were pretty tight. You know, Chris Cormier was a great rivalry. Ronnie Coleman, believe it or not. Ronnie Coleman, I'll actually tell you guys a little story. I won my first professional show in the year 2000, Night of Champions. And I went through prejudging, and, you know, professional bodybuilding, it's like one of these things, you know, it's not done until you get that trophy in hand at the night show, and they're supposedly, you know, they judge the night show or whatnot. Coleman called me after prejudging. He said, "Congratulations." I said, "What, for what?" He said, "You won." I said, "What do you mean the show isn't over yet?" He said, "Oh, you won, bud, you won." And I thought that was really cool because he was, see, 2000, he was two-time Mr. Olympia at that point. So I thought that was really cool. So we always had kind of that friendship. You know, we traveled a lot together, and especially over the past few years. You know, 2003 started the hype when Gunter beat him in 02. Him, Gunter, and myself were all booked for guest appearances together. It was pretty awesome. It was probably the most exciting year of my bodybuilding career, traveling, doing guest appearances. So much hype leading up to that contest. Right now, probably I'm closest to the newest guy, Phil Heath. He's probably the closest, I would say, that I talk to a lot. Mark Dugdale is a good friend of mine in the bodybuilding scene.
So, who's your bodybuilding superhero? Your greatest bodybuilding superhero of all time.
I mean, I don't really have a superhero. I mean, like I said, the guys I looked at first were, you know, Chris Dickerson and Bob Paris were probably the two physiques that I looked at the most. You know, Bob Paris I thought had the best overall physique. You know, he wasn't freaky. He was almost like an aesthetic big guy, which, of course, you know, I'm more of the freakish bodybuilder, but I kind of liked the look that he had. He was a good-looking guy, and I felt, you know, that was kind of a marketable look. I've always been kind of after that marketable look, I guess.
What do you think of Dorian Yates?
He was a great champion. You know, I looked up to him when I was up and coming, of course, because he was the champ. You know, I started training in 1991, and he was the champ from then on. 92, he won his first Olympia.
When you were younger, did you have any distractions? Did you have to let go of things you wanted or friends?
I honestly gave up my whole life to pursue bodybuilding. I gave up family functions, I gave up a social life. I sat in on my 21st birthday and I didn't celebrate. I basically just lived for bodybuilding. I didn't live as a kid as much. Do I regret it? Not really, because those are the years, you know, you're all partying with friends, drinking, that's the kind of stuff. I never been a drinker, never been a partier. I was just very focused. I think to achieve a certain goal, you have to give up a lot of things in life. And usually those kind of things, you know, include the social life. I did have to give up a lot of friends. And the friends that I did have were like, when I was off season, not training for a show, you know, we'd socialize once in a while. Then I start getting ready for a show and I disappear. They'd be like, what happened to this guy? I wouldn't pick up the phone, I wouldn't call anyone. I mean, I put myself in a box training for the competition and become very focused. And sometimes, you know, people don't understand that, but people that have been around me for years, my closest friends, actually realize that it's a very serious time when I get ready for the shows. Nowadays, it's not as bad as it used to be because I realized that I still have to run a business. What I didn't realize when I first started bodybuilding is there is a business side to it. You know, I run my website, booking appearances, I handle a lot of my own business, and it becomes very, very difficult to stay hidden in that box. You still need to get out there and then speak on the phone. So even though I do hate the telephone, I do have to get on the phone daily.
Do you think bodybuilders, like, they're so much bigger now than they were in the 70s, and like everyone thought they were huge? I mean, do you think it's going to keep getting so much bigger, or is that going to peak and they're just going to work on like symmetry?
Well, people keep saying this, but you know, it kind of drives me crazy when people say, well, the physiques in the 70s were better than the physiques nowadays. I mean, it really depends on what, you know, usually the people that are saying that are people that grew up in that time and was looking at the bodies, but my point is that everything has progressed. Everything has. I mean, football players weren't over 300 pounds, most of them, back then either. I mean, I think a lot of it, you know, has to do with a lot of different genetics with people, but, you know, obviously we know there's a, you know, performance drug side of it also. But in reality, what do you want to see? Do you want to go to a show and see a bunch of normal guys up there, or do you want to see guys that kind of look outrageous? I think that's what we enjoy most about bodybuilding is it's not the norm. We want to see a guy who has a lot of shape to him and a lot of muscle and a lot of deep separation. I call that kind of a freaky look. I think I said at the show last night, the guy that got 4th place, this, what's his name?
Silvio Samuel.
I mean, he was like, I think almost a crowd favorite there because he had that wow factor. He wasn't 300-pound guy, but he had a lot of round muscle, he had a lot of conditioning, and the crowd likes that kind of look. So it's really what the crowd wants to see, and nowadays people want to see the outrageous things. You know, we're always looking to go faster in cars and, you know, see, you know, more these NBA players or football players. They want to see them do things that no one else has done. So I think that's what we're going to see. As far as getting bigger, I don't know how much bigger the guys can get. I mean, I never planned to be a 270-pound bodybuilder. I was happy when I was competing at 240, so it's not really by choice. It just, you wake up one day and I guess it happens, you know? So.
Along the lines of what you just said, do you ever think about the effects of these steroids, you know, down the road later, you know, later in your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'd lie to you if I said no, but, you know, I'm not going to run from it either. I'll tell you, you know, honestly, as an athlete, you know, my wife's in the medical field. She's a nurse practitioner. It's always a great concern. You hear a lot of horror stories, and, you know, I've always made careful choices in my life. And, you know, a lot of people can sit back and say, you know, Jay's the best because he takes more drugs than anyone else. But I can honestly say that's very far from the truth. And if people don't want to believe that, you know, it's their choice. So, I don't know really what else to say. I mean, what else would you expect me to say?
No, I think about that too. And I think, you know, if I was a professional bodybuilder, that would be a great concern to me.
So, you know, I would like to see our sport eventually go mainstream, but for it to go mainstream, they definitely have to have some sort of drug testing policy. I really don't know how that would work in our sport, but there's going to come a time where I think it's going to be something that's going to come up, and you know, it's your choice in what organization to compete in. But like I said, you know, are the fans going to pay to see drug tested events? Lonnie, you've kind of been in those situations. In 1990, they drug tested the Mr. Olympia. Was that the year?
Yeah, 1990, 5 guys failed. That's at the Olympia. 5 guys. Sean Ray was third. Haney won. 5 guys failed, and people were walking out of the auditorium in Chicago saying, "I'm never coming back."
Because why?
They didn't like the guys that were there were 60% of what they looked like. The freaks were gone.
Yeah.
You know, there was nobody that had really, like you call it, the wow factor. The wow factor was now the bow wow factor. You know, was gone, and people aren't going to pay a lot of money. What are the top seats at the Olympia, Jay?
$600 for a VIP seat at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Who pays $600 in this room for VIP seating at the Olympia? It's outrageous, right?
It's a lot of money.
Who would pay $100 for seating at the Olympia?
I wouldn't, sure.
Because you have to, yeah, see me win. Well, get your $100 seats, dude, in 07. You might be up on the roof.
But Jay, tell
But
them
just because you came, I'll send you a free video.
for $25, they can see you up close and personal June 23rd.
That's right. Lonnie's plugging his show.
Pasadena City College,
Yeah.
Jay Cutler, guest poser, June 23rd.
But so they're kind of kicking me to wrap this thing up a little bit. I'm sorry I kind of dragged it on with different topics here, but you know what I want to finish with you guys. I do appreciate the support, and I appreciate the questions. I wish I could actually stay here and talk to you guys all day. I do answer my own emails. You can email me to jcutler.com. A lot of you guys probably wrote to me, and I do. You're not going to wear that outfit, though, are you?
Make you laugh too much. Big distraction.
But you guys are the reason that I'm here. I do realize that I need your support. The sport needs your support. We sit here and talk about how we can continue to make the sport bigger and better. Hey, you know what? We're all here. You guys are here for a reason. And you guys love what it is. So let's just keep supporting it. You know, pat each other on the back. We're all kind of making progress. We all have obstacles in our life. I've overcame my obstacle, and now I'm the best. I hope to stay there. But there's going to be things along the way. I'm just like a normal person. We all go through different paths in life, and I'll have some dilemma when I go home back to Vegas this week. And I'll be cleaning up my dog poop in the backyard and all that normal stuff. I do that still. Just because I'm Mr. Olympia doesn't mean I have to be doing that. And I appreciate your support, so I wish you all the best.
Hey, you should have posted it.
Yeah.
Jay, stay humble and approachable as you are.
Thank you guys. All right, welcome. There'll be some people shuffling, I'm sure, but thank you guys all for coming out and checking out, of course, the Expos move now. Anyone here last year? Yeah. Is this better, or is this? No. Okay. So we got mixed opinions. That's all right. That's the way the judging system is at the Olympia too. But always gonna have controversy. For me, coming back here, of course, I'm sure a lot of you guys follow the magazines if you're new to the sport. Just following my career. I was a champion here at the Ironman Pro back in 2003. It was kind of the beginning of my run of the top. Obviously, you guys know I've been a pro for over 10 years, and it took me a little while to break through, and now being the two-time Mr. Olympia, it's been a great experience. So I'll talk a little bit about that today, you guys, and tell you guys how it's been being the champion and kind of the road I've mentioned before and it took to get there, which had ups and downs. And of course, runner-up at the Olympia 4 times before I done and go through the same diet. It's a bit painful, but it's great now to be on top. So I'll open up for some question and answers. And I welcome those questions, anything you guys want to ask. A lot of you guys have been here before, so it's welcome for being here once again. And even if it's not the best venue, it's okay. So obviously we know now I'm the 2-time champion last year, winning my 2nd title. Of course, my ultimate goal in the beginning was to be Mr. Olympia. A dream. It was truly a dream to be the best. And when I first started training at 18 years old, I just wanted to be something better. I looked at myself in the mirror. I grew up on a farm in Sterling, Massachusetts, central Massachusetts, about 50 miles west of Boston. And I knew I wanted to do something in my life that was different from the other 6,000 people that were in my small town. And I took a liking to bodybuilding at around the age of 12. I started reading the magazines, and I realized at 18 I wanted to join the gym and pursue not really a career in bodybuilding, but to better my body and just to look different. And I admired the muscles in the magazines, and I showed my brothers. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, so I remember showing my brother, and I said, "This is what I want to look like," and he said, "You're crazy." So I took that road, and I slowly started to make progress and was coached into competing, although I was a bit nervous in the beginning. Started winning competitions, especially as a teenager. Next thing you knew, I was professional at 23, and continued to progress from there, and eventually working my way up. And every step that I took, I always set realistic goals. So I was setting myself up for the future to be the best, but I always never shot too high. That was the most important thing. And I always try to tell a lot of the fans out there and the supporters that come to the contest, or the emails, hundreds of emails I get a day, they say, "Jay, how do you get to the top like yourself?" And I say you have to take small steps just like anything else. You just have to set goals, and you have to take one small step at a time. And of course we all have dreams and aspirations. I mean, obviously, if you want to do something, you want to do something and be the best at it. So I think I had that in my heart, and I do have a great work ethic, definitely growing up on the farm in Massachusetts. And with the support of my family, I was able to mold myself into an overachiever almost, where I sacrificed everything to be the best at what I did. So if I was going to go into bodybuilding, I knew I was going to put 100% into it. And I stayed in the house and I ate, slept, and trained. And a lot of you realize that being a professional bodybuilder isn't just going to the gym and training. Like most people come up to me in the street and they say, "What do you train, like 10 hours a day?" And I say, "No, like 12. It's really, at this point, about 2 hours a day of weight training. But the most important thing is actually eating the food and getting your meals in. Most days I'm eating around 7 to 10 meals a day, and keeping my calorie count about 6,000, 6,500, even though I don't really count my calories as much as I try to watch my protein, fats, and of course carbohydrates. So right now I weigh currently 300 pounds. So what I basically try to do is take in at least 300 grams of protein a day, and I try to actually triple my body weight in carbohydrates, so I take upwards to 1,000 carbohydrates a day to put on mass. Of course, when I shift into competition mode 4 months prior to competition, it becomes kind of a tricky way to actually lose the body fat but maintain as much muscle as possible. So a lot of fluctuations in my diet. Some days I'm going to eat 500 carbs a day, some days 400 carbs a day, but I'm still maintaining a pretty high protein content, of course keeping the fats to a minimum. I don't really add extra fats to my diet. And in the beginning, I didn't realize how critical the diet was. Fortunately for me, I was able to work with a nutritionist at 18, 19 years old that helped me progress a lot quicker, and that's why I was a professional by the age of 23, which is very young. And I was able to progress very quickly and with size. I was able to put on probably 50 pounds my first 2 years of training, and of course become a teenage national champion at 19, best in the country. And of course, men's national champion at 23, which earned me professional status. So a lot of people think, oh Jay, you progressed so quickly, what'd you do differently? I think really having that nutrition value in my program was very, very, very crucial, and I try to explain that to people nowadays because people don't understand what kind of foods you need to eat to be your best. Everyone has different necessities in their training. I try to stress the value of nutrition, especially around the workouts, and of course your first meal of the day. So if I was to say the basic guidelines for myself and for anyone that wants to be fit or stay in shape, the most important meals of your day are going to be your first meal of the day, your breakfast, your pre and your post-training meals, so before and after you train. So those 3 meals are very, very crucial in your program. So, for example, for myself, I get up and I eat breakfast, 20 egg whites, 2 whole eggs, usually a cup of a special cereal I use called Ezekiel cereal, and 4 slices of Ezekiel bread, just plain, and probably a quarter gallon of water. So I eat about 150 carbohydrates with about 60 grams of protein. Of course, about probably 15, 20 grams of fat in there too. So that's my breakfast every day, and then mainly the meals for the rest of the day are, chicken, rice. I eat 1 red meat meal a day, steak. Of course, when I diet for competition, I eat a lot of fish, upwards of 5 pounds of fish a day. But on most occasions, 4 to 5 pounds of meat daily into my diet. That sounds like a lot, right? I make it sound so easy. It's easy going down and easy going out, right? I spend a lot of time in the bathroom. My wife told me not to say that. But that's, kind of the hardest part about bodybuilding, I think, especially now being here today. I live in Las Vegas. I travel every single weekend on the road, especially now being booked as Mr. Olympia, doing guest appearances, a lot of signings, charity events, that kind of thing. And for me, the food, getting in the food every 2 to 3 hours is what I shoot for, is probably the hardest part. The training's the easy part, of course, now developing a program that allows me to be able to train pretty much on schedule and allowed to progress, but of course we can't progress without the food content. So I try to get as much as I can, especially with the supplementation. That's when I use most of my protein shakes and the kind of things you see me endorse in the Muscle Tech line are used mainly when I travel and I'm on the road. That's when I try to tell people that supplements are exactly what they say, they're supplemented into a diet program. So a lot of kids ask me what are the best supplements to use, and I say, well, you have to have a program started where you have a meal program. I would say at least 5 to 7 meals a day, eating every 3 hours. Most people are awake enough hours to eat 5 to 7 meals if you're eating every 3 hours. And then you can have your supplementation in between. But it's not like I'm at home sitting there on the couch and I say, okay, it's time for meal 3. And I say, I'm going to make myself a protein shake and that's going to be my meal. I actually try to cook every single meal fresh, and I try to eat whole quality foods every single meal. It's the most important for me. So nowadays, that's kind of what I preach is, supplements when they're needed, but of course whole foods when it's at all possible. Okay, a lot of you guys who works jobs where they have trouble getting food into their program. Did anyone pack food? Who's too lazy to pack food? So what do you do?
Bring a cooler.
Bring a cooler. Then you have to eat cold food or you heat it up. That's like when I travel on the airplanes, it's hard because you bring I have like a little cooler pack that I carry with me, and I have to eat cold chicken breasts and cold rice on the plane. It's kind of a pain. Everyone kind of looks at you funny, especially when I used to travel to competitions and I'd be dieting on a lot of fish, so I'd be sitting in first class. I open up the container, fish container. The guy in the business suit's next to me like, what the? It's okay. No, it's okay. You're fine. But if Phil walk around, Phil, do you walk around? I know you're not moving much now, right? Congratulations, Phil. already took a seminar? Okay, I see you back there eating now. So Phil won the show last night. Of course, I'm very proud of that. I met Phil, a few years ago and helped push him a little further into the sport of bodybuilding. Obviously, it's paying off, and I look forward to competing against him finally in Olympia, since he's going to do it this year, right? You'll be in the show, right, Phil? So, being Mr. Olympia for me, I was here last year and I talked a little bit about what it really took to get there, and I was trying to defend the title. So now being the two-time champion, I'm able to really set into kind of the standard of what it takes to be Mr. Olympia, and definitely last year I was a little overwhelmed with the travel, and a lot really got thrown on my plate that I really didn't expect, because I was runner-up, like I said, for 4 years in a row, and I achieved great success with that, and I became very popular. I was in the magazines every month, and my bookings were up basically every single weekend. But nowadays, I go to these bookings, which of course are every weekend, sometimes 2 or 3 times over a weekend into a week, and the lines are twice as long, much more fans, but the respect is great. I mean, being Mr. Olympia, of course, is the top of our sport, and I didn't realize how much it would actually change my life and make me into a better person. And now, of course, fighting for my 3rd title here at the end of 2008, I'm doing everything I can at this point to hang on to the title. I'm training very hard and trying to limit myself a little less this year to traveling too far. I'm doing a lot of things actually in the United States, where last year I did a lot of overseas travel, because I don't think a lot of you realize, but overseas we're actually in bigger demand than the United States. Bodybuilding is almost bigger over there than it is here, so it's pretty amazing. Last year, traveling to all these foreign countries I went to, getting off the plane, and I have people holding banners that say Jay Cutler, and I see all these cameras there, and I asked the guys, man, what's going on here? They started, they're welcoming you, I said, wow, I felt like a rock star, It was a pretty awesome experience, and of course the language barrier is difficult for me. I go so many different places and try to have translators and try to relate to the fans as much as possible. But I think at this point, this is really what I enjoy the most, is actually going to places where I can actually shake hands and sign autographs and be interactive with the people, rather than being on stage at a competition, guest posing, being backstage and being escorted out. That's not as much fun to me anymore. I like to get in there, and I'm one to get on the stage. Some of you guys saw me at guest posings. I jump off the stage and get to the audience, and there's really not much control overseas, so they swarm you pretty good, and I can't even move, and I think that makes you feel pretty special, actually. I never thought, where I came from, I mentioned, a town of 6,000 people. It's amazing that nowadays it's, I'm almost like a superstar to these people, so it's pretty awesome. So anyone want to start with any questions to ask you a question?
For this year at the Olympia, are you trying, are you looking to add on muscle? Are you looking to be leaner? What's at your size and the level of achievement, how do you make yourself better? What are you looking forward to?
For myself, of course, 06 I was, pretty great. I think, one of my best showings, and last year I was, had a little problems at the end, so I wasn't at my absolute best. So of course this year I'm focused on coming back in better condition. Not necessarily bigger. I don't really shoot for, I'm always seem to be around 300 pounds in the off season, come down to around 270 for competition. A little lighter last year because, like I said, I had, an illness at the end. So this year just trying to be the champion that I am and try to win the title, where you're never going to walk away with a victory that everyone's going to agree. But I want to walk away with a victory that people say, you know what, he deserved it. Most people anyway. And just balance. That's really all we fight for now, being at the top. Everyone wants to be bigger, but I don't think bigger because I'm one of the bigger guys is really that important anymore. It's just about finer details that are going to win me the competition. And people are going to look for more improvement in my condition rather than size. Everyone knows I'm one of the bigger guys, like I said. So that's how I'm training. Like I said, just traveling less, focusing more on the diet, and getting in the gym daily without getting injured. That's the most important thing. That's probably my biggest fear at this point is an injury. A lot of you guys read the magazines and realize internet. You know, the guy that was second to me last year, Victor Martinez, is out with a patellar tear, so he's definitely out of the Arnold Classic. Probably out of the Olympia this year. So it just shows what circumstance we're up against. You have to be careful. Okay.
How long before you go to bed on a normal week do you try to get your last meal?
I actually eat right before I go to bed, and for myself, I'm a big, like I said, carbohydrate eater, so I believe in eating carbohydrates and protein before bed. So usually what I'll do is, as I wind down with my wife at probably around 10:30, 11 at night, eat my last meal, and then I usually get up around 7 in the morning and eat. You know, sometimes get up and have a shake in the night if I'm hungry, but usually if I'm getting in at least 7 meals a day right now, I'm pretty square, sleeping through the night, try to sleep 8 hours a night, and then I'm good to go from there. I mean, there's times when I used to get up in the middle of the night and I used to eat, but like I said, I'm not trying to go much over 300 pounds at this point. So.
I mean, do you work out at home or do you go out to the gym? And if you do, how many gym memberships do you have?
Well, I train out of Las Vegas. I train out of the Gold's gyms. There's 5 different Gold's gyms there. So if you have the Las Vegas Strip, the gyms are located all around the Strip. Okay, so I live in the north side, so I train about 3 different facilities there. I'm also a member at the Las Vegas Athletic Club, which I did pay for a membership there. But that's more of the look gym, you know, you're trying to be with the in crowd. So I go to the hardcore spin on the floor type gym, Gold's Gym. And I train there pretty much every day. Different times. I've been training always. A lot of you guys see my videos, whatever. I train in the morning. Now I'm training more towards the evening. A little more business during the day. Definitely now, like I mentioned, you know, being Mr. Olympia is a lot more business to take care of during the day. So I take care of my business, and then I usually head to the gym later in the evening. I just train once a day right now. As the competition gets closer, I might train up to 4 times a day. I do have cardiovascular equipment at home, which of course right now I don't do any cardiovascular training. I hate doing treadmill or bike or anything when I'm in the off season. So when I'm just trying to stay fit, I just do basically weight training and watch my diet. But of course, for competition, I have to increase the cardiovascular training with treadmill, bike, stairs, that kind of stuff, just at home. Which I do first thing in the morning before my first meal.
When you're actually taking off the weight from 300 down to 270, how much cardio are you doing at that point, and how long does it take to drop those 30 pounds?
Usually on a daily basis, about 5 days a week. I train about 5 days a week with weights also. And when I'm stripping down, it really depends. I start usually about 30 minutes a day. I work my way up probably 5 minutes every week in the beginning of the diet, like I said, 4 months out. So by the end, I'm doing 45 minutes to 1 hour daily, 5 days a week of the cardiovascular training. And this is basically just trying to move my body. I don't really target a heart rate. I don't really believe in that. It's just moving. Of course, moving 300 pounds is going to burn a lot of calories. I mean, I can sit there and eat a meal and I'll sweat eating my food. So it's like, I just try to get my body going. And of course, like I said, I did it on an empty stomach in the morning. So the first 20 minutes get the body going, burning off any sugar that might be in the bloodstream from the meals prior, the night before, and then I'm trying to tap as much body fat as possible. And of course, once I get closer to the show, you're down pretty low body fat, so it's just maintenance to keep the metabolism. That's what I really try to do. Is it takes about 3 or 4 weeks for your body to actually start functioning, burning metabolism steady on a diet. So really, about 4 or 5 weeks into the diet, so once I get down to about close to 10 weeks, that's when my body really starts making changes. And then of course, by 4 weeks out, you're pretty close to your competition weight. So I just drop water after that.
Has been a big motivator for you after this, Mr. O, with some people saying that you weren't at your best, or Victor and Dennis were better, and that kind of stuff. How has that affected you for this upcoming one?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, in the last year, when I took the title, of course, winning over Coleman, I think I got a little complacent in what I was doing, and I was really fighting to win that title at least once. And I always said, I'd be happy to just win it once, but of course that changes once you win something that it's been an obstacle and you want 2, 3, 4. Right now, I'm very hungry for this one because people doubt that I can come back and win the third, especially after last year's showing. It wasn't my best. I admitted right there on the stage that it wasn't my best. And I know there's a lot of criticism, like I said, every show, but especially last year. And I'll come back stronger, and I'm definitely, like I said, more motivated, more focused, and I'm going to do everything I can to show, try to bring the package that, you know, everyone's been waiting for is the ultimate goal. Everyone says every time, you call me a week off from the show, I'm going to tell you I'm the best of all time. I mean, that's what everyone says, right? And everyone asks you at the show, I said, how are you going to place? And I said, well, I won last year, so I'm not going to place any less than that. So just keep fighting for it, that's all.
Hey, Jay, is there like a specific body part or two or something that you look to improve on or get a little bigger or more detail on for 2008?
Of course my back, you know, I'm going to keep, you know, trying to get more detail there because I'm a great bodybuilder from the front. It's always my backside that's always the weakest area. I always lack the condition of the back, and that's what I'm criticized mostly for. A little more leg size. Obviously I'm a bigger guy, so my waist, I need to offset my waist. So of course I get the shoulder width, but I need a little more leg development. If I can come in, you know, raise your condition and a little improvement in muscle fullness, which a lot of that is really just dialing them perfectly and keeping enough fullness in the muscle when I do drop my water at the end. I feel I do have the package that can dominate once again on the show.
Why do you make yourself do the same thing every week? Does it ever get boring?
It's disgusting. I mean, I try to tell people, it's like, yeah, I eat 28 whites. I mean, who wants to eat egg whites, you know what I mean? I always say to my wife, you know, she's like, let's go for breakfast. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go out and eat egg whites and oatmeal. I mean, I can do that at home. I'd rather go out and eat bacon and eggs and toast with butter and all that stuff. And I rarely do it because I'm always fighting to stay in shape. And I always think in my head, even if I eat a bad meal, it's always going to screw me up. So you really don't eat for taste. Being a pro bodybuilder, of course, training for 16 years now, I haven't eaten for taste for 16 years. I mean, of course, I've had my splurges here and there, but it's very rare that I have, you know, a cheat meal. I don't really set a day, okay, this Sunday I'm going to cheat. This, you know, when I train for a competition, I eat 16 weeks of clean dieting. And fortunately for me, I can diet a little more higher carbohydrates than a lot of guys, so I don't suffer as badly as some. But it's not fun. I mean, that's, like I said, the nutrition is probably the hardest part. I eat the same foods at the same time every day, and I prepare them the same way. Put a lot of stuff on the Foreman grills. I grill a lot of stuff. I have a big rice cooker at home, so I just scoop up rice every meal. Might add a little soy sauce or something like that. I don't really use much ketchups and that kind of stuff, but I just try to flavor it as much as possible. Get it down as quick as I can.
You're a role model now. I was just wondering, when you were growing up, did you have any specific role models or who inspired you to do it?
You know, honestly, I looked toward my brothers as role models. You know, they were hardworking, you know, kind of country guys, I would call them. I mean, they show up at the shows and, you know, they're in their ripped jeans and that kind of stuff, you know, so. And we grew up on a farm, and that's what I admired. I admired their hard work, and they built a company at a young age. We did concrete, and that was a family business, and I really looked up to them, and they were a bit older than me. My oldest brother is almost 20 years older than I am. So I feel that they kind of raised me. My dad was a big inspiration, and nowadays, honestly, I mean, I look to my wife for inspiration, because we've been together since we were 16. And we're going on 18 years being together almost, so I use her for inspiration. We kind of feed off each other, and you know, we're the best of friends, and she's been there for me since the beginning. So
I heard that you sleep a lot. Do you do that pre-contest as well?
As much as possible, I sleep. I sleep definitely. Try to shoot for 8 hours a night, 6 to 8 hours. Try to nap during the day. The thing is, when you eat a lot of calories, a lot of food, especially carbohydrates, you tend to get tired. It whacks up your blood sugar a little bit. So I try to nap as much as possible. I mean, if you put me in front of a movie, if I go to the movie theater, my wife won't even bring me anymore because within 2 minutes I'll be sleeping. So I just fall right asleep. Put me in a dark room, turn the lights out. It's lights out for me. And I have no problem falling asleep at night. I'm so tired from the day. And the training just kills me. The training and carrying the weight. I think the weight is a big part, especially when I weigh as much as I do now. It's too much weight to be carrying all the time. I can't wait to be down actually and weight when sometimes can be there.
I was just going to ask, how much longer do you think you're going to keep competing?
It's hard to say. I mean, like I said, I'm focused on doing this year, and I always said I wanted to win 3 Mr. Olympias, and I'm enjoying it. Last year was a little stumble for me, so like I said to this guy, I'm really motivated to come back, and I'm not thinking much past what I'm going to do this year, honestly. I really want to come back with a package that can win or lose. I'm trying my best to be right at the top. That's all I can do. I can't help what the other guys are doing. And there's a lot of great guys coming up. Bodybuilding is one of those unique things where any day anything can happen. You train for the Olympics for 4 years. You're the best at what you do. It takes one stumble and that's it. Your 4 years is just totally lost. It's the same thing with me. I'm training for 1 competition a year, and it's hit or miss. And all these other things don't even matter that go on. Now I've limited myself to the Mr. Olympia. I could go back to the Euro Classics, being a 3-time champion there. But for me, it's better to just focus on 1 competition, try to peak once. It's definitely in my favor to be at my best, even though last year I wasn't. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, when you drop water, how do you do it? Do you hydrate yourself, or you dehydrate yourself, or what?
What I do for water depletion, depending on when the show is, usually Fridays or Saturdays. Now the Mr. Olympia is held on Friday night. Finals are Saturday night. What I do is I try to measure my water starting about 2 weeks out. I try to include even what I use in the rice and the oatmeals, that kind of stuff. I measure the water. So most of the time I'm drinking up to about 3 gallons, 4 gallons a day. So towards the end I'll taper that down. So I'll definitely cut my water usually a day and a half before the competition. If the show's on Friday night, I'll be done drinking by Thursday night, Thursday midday. I'll take little sips after that. But leading up to that, if I'm drinking 4 gallons a day, one day the next day I'll go to maybe 2 gallons, then I cut down to 1 gallon, and then maybe like half a gallon. So whatever day's out. I definitely taper it down. I don't just stop drinking what I've been drinking cold turkey. I try to taper things down. It's better to not cut too many things off drastically, just like your sodium. I slowly take out the sodium the last week also, until 3 days prior, where I take in no sodium. That includes egg whites, any kind of salty things. It's very, very crucial that the dialing in part and getting dry enough by cutting these kind of things. And of course, water is a major, major thing of it. But the problem is, when you sacrifice the water, we know that 70% of the muscle is water, so you have to take in enough carbohydrates to maintain that fullness and be dry enough under the skin. That's kind of a tricky process. What I like to actually carb up on when I do start cutting my fluids is actually I use dry things like oatmeal and like I mentioned, the Ezekiel bread, which actually it sucks water from your body to help digest these things. When you have dry substance like that going through the digestive system, it will actually pull water from the body to help digestion. So that's how I dry out a little bit with that also. Kind of tricks you learn over the years.
Who's your primary nutritionist?
Excuse me?
Who's your primary nutritionist?
I don't really have a primary nutritionist at this point. I used to use Chris Aceto in the past. He's kind of taught me a guideline of what I usually use. But it's very difficult to say at this point I can't tell you what I'm going to do for the Olympia. Really, it's my starting off point, which is important, and how that progresses. What kind of factors come in, whether, training's different, my travel schedule, whatever. I try to cut all my appearances out, usually two and a half months prior to competition. So I'm staying, basically training in Las Vegas. And like I mentioned, it's 4 times a day training most of the time when you get that close to competition. So of course it's crucial to stay home and train, and that's really all you have time for. By the time I cook, eat, sleep, train, that's it. A lot of people say, gee, what do you do all day since you're contracted? You're kind of your own boss, and it must be great to be a pro bodybuilder. And they think, you know, I go to the gym and lay on the couch all day. I kind of do that, but I cook food. And I run errands and stuff. Now, it's a busy lifestyle being a, you know, Mr. Olympia, and I run my own mail order, and I'm booking all my events, and I've, you know, brought on a couple friends to help me, and doing that kind of thing now because it's become so overwhelming. And you know, this trip, for example, I'm out here for about a week taking care of business. We had a charity training camp, which is the first of many that we're going to do. On Friday was our first one, where half the proceeds of the training camp goes to Make-A-Wish Foundation, and guys flew in to work out with me. We limited 4 people per event. We train in the Mecca of Bodybuilding, and of course around my Max Muscle store in Venice, California. And they get to work out for the day and eat with Jay Cutler, and it was a pretty cool experience, and it went very, very successful. So we have another one in April, another one in June. Those are already booked out, so we're going to start looking into doing something after the Olympia for the next ones, and possibly even take it on the road. But I think everyone kind of wants to come to the Mecca and train. And of course, a lot of you guys are probably spoiled because you live out this way, but it's a great experience for a lot of people. So there's always new adventures I'm trying to do now, being the champion, and trying to get involved in as many things as I can, just instead of trying to guest pose and travel on every single weekend, trying to stay home and do closer things at my home now, and get back to the sport of bodybuilding.
Jay, what do you like besides bodybuilding?
What do I like as far as sports?
Yeah.
I mean, I watch, you know, football, basketball. I have the NFL NBA ticket at my house. I have a big theater room where I watch a lot of stuff, and you know, it's kind of limited being a bodybuilder. I mean, I have ATVs that I bought in 2005. I haven't ridden once yet. I'm into cars. I have, you know, some tricked out cars. I have a car in the SEMA show, a big car show in Vegas every year. I like to read a little bit. I used to read a lot of mystery novels. I wanted to be a police officer, so I get into those kind of, you know, mystery novels and that kind of stuff. Just try to spend as much time as I can with my dogs and my wife when I'm on the road a lot, so just do anything that I'm not on the telephone or eating chicken and rice.
How can you work out uninterrupted in the gym? Because I'm sure when you go into the weight room, you have everybody coming at you and say, how do you do this? How do you work out that? How do you do this? How do you keep them from interrupting you without being rude?
You slam weights really hard and you spit on the floor. I do that. You get it. In Vegas, I mean, you look at it as, you know, you get everyday people. I actually pick quieter gyms. When I travel to events, people do come up, but that's part of my job. I have to shake hands, and unless I'm training 4 weeks out from a competition, I don't take it that serious. I mean, I'm a serious trainer, but I'll never be rude to anyone, because when I was a kid and I was up and coming, I remember going to a gym and training where I'm from in Massachusetts, and I remember being in front of this guy who was doing cable crossovers. He was like a big bodybuilder guy, and I'm looking at this guy and say, wow, it's pretty big, and I want to look like that. You know, I'm standing there, and the guy's yelling, move, move. I'm like, is he talking to me, you know? And I said, what a jerk, you know? I want to like pick up a 10-pound plate and throw it at him. But I'll always remember that kind of stuff. I'll never be rude to anyone, and I try to just be as nice as possible. People admire what you do. And I'm fortunate to be at the top of what I do, and like I said, you don't know. I mean, it could be over tomorrow. You don't know when an injury is going to come, or, you know, when I retire, is anyone really going to care who Jay Cutler is? I'm really trying to set my spot in the sport of bodybuilding where I can walk away and feel like a champion for the rest of my life. Of course, being Mr. Olympia, the 11th Mr. Olympia, I feel that I've kind of cemented my place in history, but what are people going to remember about Jay Cutler different from the other bodybuilders? And I try to create that persona that, you know, I was a great ambassador of the sport, and I always give people respect, because I'm just on nobody trying to make a living at what I do. I'm not anything above and beyond anyone. And I always take that approach. We all start off as something. I had a goal to be a bodybuilder. You have a goal to be what?
The next Monica brand? Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
man.
The next Monica brand. You're supposed to say like a professional job, not in the fitness industry. I'm trying to get out of fitness, so. But that's the way I see things, is you have to give people respect. So if you see me in the gym, come up and say hello.
When you do go on the road, do you know beforehand what gym you're going to, or do you just like, when you get there?
For example, when I book an event, usually I have a whole contract that I send to a promoter. Usually my flights are paid, I'm paid a fee to go somewhere. And I have, hotel, airfare, food allowance, gym to train at, tables at the show. We have a time schedule, what I'm going to do at the show. If I'm going to guest post, if I'm just going to sign autographs, whatever. So they have something set up where I can walk into a gym. And of course, Jay Cutler's coming to your gym, so there's 20 people there when I show up. So I shake hands, maybe sign some pictures, but that's part of it. I enjoy going to the gyms, and I'm glad that I'm welcomed at these places, and I'm glad to sign pictures for the fans, or take pictures at the gym itself for the owners and the people that are involved in the facility. That's part of it. But some of these places I go, like especially overseas, you guys wouldn't believe the gyms that I train in. I had cement weights in my basement when I was young that are better than some of these gyms. They make, no lie, they fill up the milk jugs with cement, and that's, they have some of those. They want me to come train like Mr. Olympia did. So I've seen quite an experience in different kinds of gyms. Best place I probably trained, probably in Vegas. I think Vegas has the best gyms. I trained in Mecca Bodybuilding here in Venice, California. But there's a lot of great facilities out there. A lot of times I go and I'm training at a facility that's not catered to bodybuilders. Most of the gyms nowadays aren't catered to bodybuilders. It's more upscale health clubs and pools and racquetball and basketball, that kind of stuff. Someone had a question.
I know you talk about nutrition, I know you talk about your training, but how do you get yourself prepared psychologically? Like, what do you do before?
I have a pretty good mental, I guess, I've kind of learned over the years to just, I have to do things at 100%. I'll even watch my own videos sometimes. I watch videos from time to time, but this year, like, he mentioned, I'm feeding off, last year not being great. So I guess in a little bit in my head, I'm a little angry, a little upset with myself. I'm not upset with the fans or anything like that. I'm not upset at the judges anymore because I'm winning, so it's, every year I complain about the judging. But now the judges are the best. So I just turn up the radio loud on the way to the gym, listen to different types of music. Sometimes I load an iPod and I train with an iPod. That's something I've been doing the last couple of years. It's too hard with the Walkmans and that kind of stuff. I put a belt on and I have to keep, some of the music I listen to, of course, cassettes or with CDs. Now with an iPod, at least you can load music that you like, all the music, one after another. It's a little easier. Psych myself up that way. But I'm Mr. Olympia, so that's what I kind of feed off now. It's just trying to maintain the title and be the best.
What type of exercises and warm-ups do you do to prevent injuries, and do you work out any local muscles?
To avoid injuries, I do warm-up sets, basic, all my basic exercises, probably the exercise you do, bench press, deadlifts, T-bar rows, pull-ups, all that kind of stuff, shoulder presses. I don't do any bike warm-up. Luckily in Las Vegas, the weather is not that cold. When I trained in Boston on the East Coast, it's the reason I moved to Las Vegas, actually. Because I hated cold weather. And definitely in Vegas, my body feels the best. Even when I come to California and it rains, I can definitely feel the difference in my body nowadays at 34 years old. At 24, I was just like a bull. I didn't care. I'd go in the gym and just start banging away. But now I have to do a little warm-up with, you know, a couple warm-up sets. And once I get the blood going, I found the exercises that seem to work best for me. I always start my back training with some sort of pull-down movement. I'll reverse direct to stretch my lats a little bit before I get into my heavy bent rows or deadlifts or T-bar rows. For chest training, same thing. I just warm up with about 3, warm-up sets with bench presses or dumbbell presses. I tend to use some hammer machines now to start my first exercise, just a little safer. And rotator cuff, never had a problem. It's a bad injury if you do have that, because it does limit you from a lot of things. You'll feel a lot of pain there. I've also worked heavily, if you guys read my articles, seen my videos, massage therapy. I do a lot of, about 6 hours a week in deep tissue massage. $25,000 a year I spend just on massage therapy, tissue work, to keep my tissue healthy. Release the fascia, open up the tissue. I've taken on Pilates about 2 years ago, stretch a little more. Focus a lot on stretching. I'm very flexible for 300 pounds. So when I'm finished, maybe I'll be a Pilates instructor. I won't wear a leotard though.
Do you ever go through a door sideways?
Depends how big the door is. I used to have a bathroom in our apartment. I used to have to go sideways in the door. But now I built a house where the doors are grand and I can walk through pretty much straight. I just have to drop my arms, you know, because bodybuilders always have to walk with that. Like they got some barrels under their arms. But I try not to walk like that too much. I always ask my wife when I see like some guy walking like he's huge, and I say, I don't look like that guy, do I? There's no need for that. So any of you guys that hold your arms up, don't do it.
What size are your biceps?
22 and a half, I think. I haven't measured them lately, though. So everyone always asks me that. I've got about 100 people asking how big my arms are this weekend. And how much I bench press. I always tell them like 750 or something. They're like, oh yeah, because my friend has a 60-year-old son, and he does like 650 pounds. There's always someone in every crowd that has a friend that's as big as me. I see people in the airports and they're like, man, you're a big guy. You know, my 17-year-old son's your size. Really? What circus mirrors you got in your house? You get all types, you know. So I go to the shows and they always want to pose and stuff. It's pretty cool, you know. I have fun posing with fans. Anything goes with me. I'm an easygoing guy. You know, they always want me to put them in headlocks and stuff. And this is after I've been at the signings for like 6 hours and my armpits are like sweating. I'm like, yeah, if you don't mind, I'll put you in headlocks. So don't let me put you in a headlock today.
Will you be disappointed if you don't compete? I mean, as far as your motivation and stuff?
I feel, I can honestly say no. I mean, I would love to see Victor come back. I mean, I don't wish anything badly on Victor at all. Because I feel at my best, and you may disagree or agree, I can beat Victor Martinez, okay? But my motivation, honestly, was Ronnie Coleman. He was a big motivation and inspiration to me. And we had our battles for the years. You guys all saw it. That was, to me, and it was a little disappointing last year when I wasn't 1-2 with Ronnie Coleman. I was hoping that he would finish, of course, second, not first, to me. And It was fun. We had a great time. I mean, those are the years people are going to remember about Jay Cutler, I think, the most, is the battles with Ronnie Coleman and then finally becoming the champ. Another friend of mine, Chris Cormier, great battles with Chris Cormier at the Arnold Classic. I won 3 times over the Arnold with him. And I miss those days. You know, I was talking to Chris last week and I said, you know, I really miss those days. And it's kind of the newer age coming up now, and I've tried to mentor a few guys, you know, Phil being one of them. And you know, it's funny because Victor, before he broke through, you know, I hooked him up with Chris Aceto, my nutritionist I mentioned, and he won his first professional show under Chris Aceto. And I remember, you know, no one wanted to give this guy a shot, and I called Chris and said, listen, help this guy out, he's got a ton of potential, and no one saw it. And I remember telling people before his first win at the Night of Champions he was going to win the show, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Next thing you know, he's winning, and now he's, you know, second best in the world, controversially, this past Olympia. So, you know, I just want him to recover best he can. That's what I hope for, you know, and hopefully, I think he'll be back for the Arnold Classic. Will he be a contender for the Olympia title again? I think he'll be okay. I hope. We'll see how it goes. But there's new guys that are coming up also. So
when the day comes, you decide to retire from bodybuilding. Do you think you'll stay at the same way you are now, or will you reduce it drastically to like 220, 230, 40, somewhere in there?
Probably about 230. I mentioned it's a lot of work to be. I don't want to eat 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day. I want to be able to eat definitely about 4 to 5 meals a day, perform more cardiovascular training, maybe get involved in other sports where cycling or maybe the Pilates, like I mentioned, and focus more on a lifestyle rather than a job of bodybuilding. I don't think I'll ever go in the gym and train like a maniac. I love what I do, but I'm only doing it for a limited time. I'll always weight train, and I'll always stay fit, and I'll always eat healthy, but not to this extreme. I mean, anyone sitting in this room, there's not a lot of people that really, I don't think anyway, that can sit here and say, I want to be as big as you, Jay. I mean, you guys are coming here to listen to experience and build, you know, what the champion does. And that's really what I see coming to the different events that I attend is these are families coming, they're bringing their kids, people that just want to stay fit. They're not looking to be professional bodybuilders, Mr. Olympia. Of course, it's a goal, but I mean, a lot of people realize that it's only something that can be Mr. Olympia. So I think I'll come down to weight quite a bit. How long that will take, I don't really know. I mean, hopefully I don't drop like 50 pounds the first few months and retire. But eventually it becomes kind of a nuisance to carry so much. And, you know, I have to have all my clothes custom made, and I just wear tank tops and shorts all the time. I have to stay in Las Vegas, I guess. That's probably the hardest part. I can't buy anything off the rack. Wear 4 or 5X shirts. All my suits are custom made.
Don't you have an idea to become the governor of Nevada?
I didn't marry a Kennedy, so I don't think kidding. Muscle tech, man, look. You know that. Every page of every magazine is muscle tech. Honestly, supplements, use protein shakes, usually around the training, like I mentioned, on the road when I travel. You know, I use Cell Tech, which has creatine. That's a big product I use when I'm trying to put on weight. These new NO2 products, you know, Muscle Tech has a few. That's the big thing right now is the NO2 products before you train. Open up the blood flow, nutrients, get a better pump. That seems to be what everyone's doing nowadays. And more for recovery and for around the training is what I focus. Supplementation. Glutamine I use on a daily basis. A lot of multivitamin, mineral. I take about maybe 50 pills a day on different types. My wife counts them all out, so I don't even know what I'm taking. Carrie, what am I taking now? She's back there, she knows. She doesn't want to answer. That's Mrs. Cutler.
Stand up.
So, she counts it all out, so when I wake up in the morning usually, Carrie goes off to work early. She has to get up and actually go to a real job, so she gets up and makes me my eggs in the morning and leaves my little supplements there. And I wake up and microwave the food, so it makes it a little easier for me to we cook. And of course, all the spouses or girlfriends here know that you guys do most of the cooking, right? It becomes a chore, and that's like a job. So fortunately now we have a big kitchen, we cook a lot of our food, like I said, fresh every day. And sometimes I have actually meals delivered. I have a cook that makes some foods for me, and I freeze them, and then I take them as I go if I'm in a rush or if I'm short of time. I just try to throw those in the microwave and throw those out. A couple more questions.
How do you eat on the road?
I try to just go to restaurants. I mean, you can order basically chicken breast with rice, baked potato, anywhere. You can go to Wendy's and order a chicken breast sandwich, throw out the bread, order a baked potato, and I'm good to go. So even when I'm driving, I can eat that kind of thing. So if all else fails, I head to Wendy's and get my chicken and baked potato. But most of the time, I pack food as much as I can. I carry like the Ezekiel cereal, Ezekiel bread for my carbohydrates, all protein shakes with me. I always carry a cooler bag with me. I try to eat as healthy as possible. I don't really eat too much fast food, only if I really need to. And, you know, of course, the hotels have room service also. And like I mentioned, the promoters usually cater to that.
Do you work out with other bodybuilders, and do you feel like it's the same amount of camaraderie like it was sit back at the golden era?
No, I mean, a lot of these guys are coming out to Vegas to train with me now. You know, Phil, he's been with me a few times this year, and training a little bit with Silvio Samuel now. Was fourth in the competition last night. Gustavo Bell trains in Las Vegas. He's a good friend of mine. But not as much because of my schedule. If I mentioned I'm training at night now, I've trained earlier in the day before. For me, I don't have a set schedule. I'm there and I'm gone for a week or two. You know, I might be home for 2 weeks, so it's very hard to get into a plan with someone. So I just kind of focus on doing things myself, and I'll bring people along. So a lot of people fly in and out of town and spend some time and train with me, which is kind of cool. But I get along pretty well with all the guys. I mean, every guy looks at me, and I'm willing to help a lot of these guys. I do as much as I can. And I want to see everyone be successful, not only in competition, but also financially. That's kind of what I'm looked upon as one of the guys that's done well financially at using bodybuilding as a tool to make money and market yourself. And there is potential there to do very, very well, but you have to have some sort of business sense and follow some sort of guideline. You make yourself available as much as possible in the short period of time that you're actually on top, and maybe not even on top, but just in the time you're in the magazine and being marketable and being able to make the money.
Is there any advice you give to the teens who want to look like Jay Cutler one day?
Well, I started as a teen, so like I said, I started with nutrition early, started to get on a meal plan. I wrote everything in a log. I journaled everything day to day. I have stacks of journals where I wrote every single movement I made, every meal. I tracked everything. I learned what foods worked best for my body, what times of day were the best time to eat for me, what time to rise, what time to go to bed, what time to train. You have to find a system in your own body that works the best for you. And when I try to tell a lot of kids, I waited until I was 18 years old to start training. I told you I had the love for bodybuilding at 12. But I wanted to find the right age that I could actually train and give 100%. And I knew I was going to train for most of my life that way. So I waited until I was 18 out of school, and I went from there. I went and never gave up, never let up a day. I trained every single day on a set schedule, 5 days a week, and I've never stopped. And that's the biggest problem is a lot of teenagers, they lift heavily while they can, and then they get girlfriends or they want to party, whatever they want to do, and they fall off. Now, you have to stay consistent. You have to be always on top of your game. And get out there and compete. Don't be afraid. I was nervous as hell as my first competition. Even when I became professional, I remember going backstage, being hired as a guest poser, paid $2,000 to guest pose at a show, and I was shaking backstage because I was so nervous. I didn't have a lot of stage experience. I turned professional in my third competition in my life. So you have to be your best and be prepared mentally, most importantly, and that's very difficult, especially as a teenager, but it's just focus and learning your body and taking time. You have to be patient with your body. You can't grow overnight. You can't look like Jay Cutler overnight. It took me 16 years to be at the level that I'm at. It's just time, that's it.
What is your body percentage, and when you have to train for the shows, competitions?
Body
how
fat?
many? Yeah, and then when you have to train for the competitions, how many meals a day you have, and what are the things you eat?
My body fat now is probably about 9%. Realistically, that's with organ fat. Last time I had it tested, I was about 9.5, about a month ago, and 300 pounds. And then when I get down for competition, I'm probably about 3-4%. At about 280 without losing water. And I eat 7 meals a day when I dive for competition. 7-8 meals every 2.5 hours. And mainly, like I said, protein, my protein source, I eat 5 pounds of fish a day, a pound of fish every meal. And then I focus on a lot of brown rice, white rice, green vegetables such as broccoli, asparagus, green beans.
So you eat only fish or chicken?
Some chicken. I eat usually 1 or 2 chicken meals, the rest are fish meals, 1 egg white meal. Red meat once in a while if I need a little more fat in my diet, but I only suggest red meat once a day. It's a little different when I was younger. Now I'm 34, so I try to only limit my red meat to usually once a day.
Do you feel that you see the most growth with some of the heavier powerlifting routines or some of the higher volume routines?
Definitely the basic training I adapted since around 2005. Definitely gave me a little more size, for sure. The problem is when I started doing all that heavy power training, my waist definitely grew, which of course in bodybuilding you don't necessarily want. But in order to build my back to the way it is now, to be competitive with a former champ Ronnie Coleman, I had to do the heavy deadlifts and all that stuff. I really didn't incorporate a lot of that into my training. I just relied on basic movements, but not super heavy. I always go for the pump, and what I try to preach to people is that bodybuilding is not about power training. You're not focused on 2 or 3 or 4 repetitions. Everything should be done in 8 to 12 repetitions. It's working the pump of the muscle. You're trying to get that pump. You're not trying to go in there and work your joints, burn your joints out. Of course, as a bodybuilder, you want to stay in the sport as long as possible, especially being a professional. So, number 1, you don't want to risk injury. Number 2, you want to stay, like I said, as long as you can, competitive. And I think a lot of guys, they end up tearing themselves up, burning their joints out. They train too heavy. You can knock the way I train, but I haven't had any serious injuries in 16 years of training. So it's kind of crucial, where I think you should work on volume training. Heavy. When I say 10 or 8 to 10 to 12 repetitions, start doing heavy at 8. Really heavy at 10, and by 12 you should be pretty much okay. That's it. I'm not going any further than this. You can do your force repetitions. I don't suggest that every single exercise you do. Maybe pick one exercise out of as many as you do 4 or 5 different exercises per body part. I train everything once every week. Each body part is done once a week. It takes about 72 hours for me to recover muscle, so I won't train the same body part for at least 72 hours. But you have to get out of the gym and you have to feed it. That's when you're going to grow the most. People think you're growing in the gym, but actually it's when you're outside the gym feeding the muscle. So the meals after the training is super, super important. Okay.
You have so many people that admire you, like including myself. Like, how would you consider yourself as a leader? Do you see yourself as a leader? Like, with a whole bunch of fans you have?
As a leader?
Yeah.
Well, why would you say that, what do you admire, you think, about me the most? Just because I work?
No, it's because you're fit, and then, like, it inspires me to work out as well. Because, like, my brother, he told me about you, my brother, Jose Luis Martinez, and it's inspired me a lot to work out, like, ever since I was, like, a kid. So that's why I'm asking if, like, would you consider yourself as a leader?
I appreciate that. That's what I've learned over the years. When I first started training, I never planned on being a role model for people. That wasn't the thing that I really shot for. I never even thought, never crossed my mind. But I think now, of course, being the champion and showing my road of progress along the way, and and showing continued success, I think that's when you pick up that leadership role, so people look for you for inspiration because of your success, and people feed off successful people. And I always have myself. When I first started training, I didn't read necessarily bodybuilding books. I read cycling books and nutrition guides, and I admired the people that wrote these books, the nutritionists and people that had some sort of influence. I guess I have the influence because you see success in the person that is standing up here in front of you. So what else can I say? I mean, I'm going to do the best I can to represent a positive image in bodybuilding. And, I worked hard to get there, and I never gave up. I think a lot of people respect what I did for the Olympia all those years, second place 4 times, and I wanted to quit. I really did. And after 05, I said, that's it, I can't do this anymore. And I always tell everyone I ate some cheeseburgers and fries after the show, and then I was ready to go for the next year. So it's the little things, that make you step forward. And I don't mind having a leadership role.
Thank you.
How many sets per exercise do you generally do?
About 3 sets per exercise. So if I was going to do a flat bench press, I would do maybe 2 warm-up sets. What I call field sets, I don't include those, and then I would do 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions on pretty heavy weight. Pretty basic.
Right.
And like I said, at this point, I've already grown the muscle to what it is. Now it's just maintaining and keeping that there.
Do you increase the weight in each set for the same exercise?
Most of the time I increase slightly, or I stay with the same weight, depending. It depends on what my body feels that day. I kind of listen to what my physique, my body's telling me that under that circumstance. And a lot of factors come in. Coming off a week like this, traveling, I'm not going to go full tilt next week into the gym and train for an all-time record of weights. I'm going to be fatigued from the travel, sleeping in hotels, and not getting the meals 100% on time. So.
You're starting your own event later this year, the Cutler Open. Can you tell us more about how big of an event is it going to be? What's the prize money for the daily event who's going to be invited?
I'm holding the Cutler Classic in Massachusetts, where I started. It's attached along with the New England Bodybuilder Championships, which is a current contest going on there. It's taking place on May 4th, 2008, in downtown Boston. It's an NPC event, which is National Physique Committee. That's the amateur division of our sport of bodybuilding. Of course, me being a professional is the IFBB. So the NPC does not allow any prize money. It does give trophies, several gifts from sponsor supplements. Muscle Tech's a major sponsor there, and you're declared the Cutler Classic or the New England Bodybuilding Champion if you win the event.
Do you plan to grow it to the level of like the Arnold?
Not necessarily to that. I mean, I don't know what the future brings. Right now I'm focused more on, of course, maintaining Mr. Olympia, but I think attaching my name to an event in a place where I started, and that's important to me because it was a big support of me back in Boston, even though I've transplanted to Las Vegas to be able to train amongst better weather and better facilities. I'm still trying to just give back to the people that were around me when I first started training. We have all different divisions, men's, women's, fitness, figure, teenage, everything. So hopefully, I'll be able to do something out on the West Coast, since I'm basically living out here now. So are we ready to wrap up? Is that okay? So I need one more question. Let's get one more.
As you're slowing down and making adjustments to your diet, how does it affect you psychologically, emotionally, physically?
Well, I look in the mirror about 100 times a day, and I try to think if I look smaller than the day before as I shrink down. But usually I watch the scale, and it's very difficult to judge, okay, am I losing body fat and maintaining muscle? Because that is the ultimate goal, is to take off all the body fat without losing any muscle fullness whatsoever, but it's almost impossible. So there's days that, I have the ultimate judge, my wife, I have her look at me and I say, how do I look? And she'll say, you look better yesterday, you look better 3 days ago. That's the tricks. Nowadays, it's not as crucial to me that I don't look so great on certain days because I've been doing it for so long. And that's why I have the advisor, the nutrition advisor, someone looking at me that had a better eye before, but nowadays, I can almost kind of see what's going on. I've done it, it's routine. All I know is I need to look good on the day of Mr. Olympia, and that's all that matters to me. And that's what I focus on. So your mind plays tricks on you. Everyone wants to look different. I mean, I still look in the mirror and I want to see certain improvements. Even being Mr. Olympia and being declared the best bodybuilder in the world, I still want to see a better package, and that's what keeps us going forward. That's what keeps us fighting for certain goals. And you know, like I say to everyone, and I want to kind of close up with that, you know, I had a dream as a kid. I wanted to be the best at something. I really wasn't sure what it was going to be. It ended up being Mr. Olympia. Now I'm a multiple champion. I always said if I won the title once, it would be a great honor. Now I'm only blessed to be at the top as a multiple champion, and hopefully I'll come back to win number 3 here in 2008. And I appreciate the support of all the fans, you know, young and old. It's a great, great honor that you guys sat here and listened to what I have to say. And I hope that you guys maybe learn something about myself or about the sport of bodybuilding, or something you can use in your routines or better stage of your life. Okay, and I do appreciate that. I have some autographs back here at the table if you guys would like one. I got some free autographs if you guys would like them, and I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll probably be back here next year. And we appreciate the support, you guys, and I wish you all the best.
All-wheel drive, ABS, a hatchback,
CNP Professional is a company run by bodybuilders for bodybuilders. They're innovators in protein supplementation technology with their use of proprietary blends of fast and slow proteins and their introduction of product culturing with probiotic organisms. Their pioneering use of the only true undenatured dairy proteins in the industry has made ProPeptide and ProMR the products of choice for Olympians and professional athletes the world over. However, this innovation extends way beyond the protein formulas for which they've become famous. An ever-growing range of cutting-edge formulas keeps hardcore enthusiasts on the edge of their seat.